But go ahead, and I do have one slide real quick. So one of the reasons I was really excited when Jake made the offer to come over and join the Business Center was, as he just said, there's a chance to change the narrative. I believe, and I think most believe, that that's not going to happen with like a push of a button. It's going to take one business at a time. And that's what the Business Center for the county is here for, is to help businesses one at a time. And as Bill and Jake both said, our primary focus is all those other businesses that are not in that 5,000 group that's in our strategic industries, our retails, our restaurants, our service-oriented businesses. And so what does the Business Center do? Who are we? I mean, we've been around a little bit, as Jake noted. We were the Business Solutions Group, then we were the Business Advancement Team. Hopefully we'll be as the Business Center longer than those two. The other thing I will say real quick is, as much as Mr. Weissman focused on the business liaisons, as you can see here, we're more than just business liaisons. Those are critical positions to conduct outreach, but as this graphic shows, we're more than just the business liaisons. So one of the things we're focused on is assisting, helping businesses get through the county processes by navigating county processes, permitting licenses, and also, engaging with them, going and doing outreach. Every day, businesses call the county. They need help getting through processes. They need help connecting to resources. Most of those businesses are not in the strategic industries, and so that is what the Business Center is here for. We work with our partners in the regional directors, or the regional centers, with our partners in permitting, with our partners at the EDC, to make sure businesses get where they need to go. We do have one position that is unique that I just want to highlight, is our small business navigator. She's excellent, and she is helping to identify areas where there's bureaucratic friction in the county government, and be able to make recommendations to fix those so that we don't have businesses continue to run into those walls. Then that's the top sphere. So if we rotate around, we also continue to manage 3 county incubators. So we support entrepreneurs through incubators, and as it was highlighted in the council staff packet, I think this is one of the areas where we have the greatest synergy and connection with MCDC, because in Germantown we do have wet labs and we do have life science businesses there. The county, through the processes of retaining certain elements in economic development, retain these incubators, and that is part of the Business Center team. And then finally, we have staff that are focused on managing contracts with several resource partners, as well as managing some of our economic development fund programs, such as microlending, the MOVE program, which we've also partnered with the EDC on. And so again, all of these 3 are one team. All of those budgets are one team, other than the one that was on the EDC on table 2, and we're all here to help businesses start and grow. And as Mr. Tompkins said, no wrong door policy. So if a business shows up to us, if it's one of the 5,000, we're sending them to the EDC. If it's not, we're working with them to get them connected. So thank you. And with that, did you have more? Or
I just wanted to say one thing. One of the questions that we've been asked is how do we coordinate? How do we make sure that we aren't overlapping? We take primary responsibility for overall marketing for economic development, which includes what the Business Center does. We highlight what the Business Center does. Whether it's a workshop, whether it's a training session, whether it's actually even going to other divisions like permitting to demonstrate that there are a lot of things at your disposal here in Montgomery County. So that also helps us to be of one voice and helps to avoid confusion in terms of where people go. And in terms of a focus for this year, next year, and going forward, we do not do enough marketing to move this county forward in the ways we need to. We've done a much better job over the last couple of years of doing that, and marketing is a lot more than advertising. It's about education, it's about workshops, it's about networking, it's about community outreach. So when you think about marketing, don't think about the latest ad campaign. It's all of those things coming together. And in the information that we sent to the council, it's not in your packet, we have, I think, a 30 or 40 page summary of all the different types of marketing activities that we do. And we'll make sure that you have direct access to that. But it does a great summary of all the things that we think are important. It takes money to do that, and it takes money to put on those events and activities. We need to make sure that we have more feet on the street, that we are engaged with important customers, meaning businesses, long before they ever think about growing or long before they ever think about expanding. So relationships are important. And you'll also see that in our budget, in our prior budgets, we are trying to build on what we've been doing, because this is a journey, and that's how you have to look at it.
Thank you so much for that. Was there anything else? No. So I would like to remind the committee for a couple things. Number one, Today, we're just getting an overview of their economic development budgets. We're going to be voting on these issues next week. Okay, that's for next week. Although if you have any questions on what they said, things that you want to get into more details for next week, this is the moment for you to ask those questions. We have a long agenda, so I want you to please be very specific with those questions. I have a couple. After we're done with this segment, then we have items 2, 3, 4, 5. Those items we will be today saying which ones are high priority, which ones are low priority, or which ones, honestly, should we not be doing at all. Okay, there are certain things that we as a committee could very well agree and say, it's not happening, we don't have the funds. So if that's the case, I'm open to that. But the goal would be the high priority selections as it was laid out by our council president, Evan Glass, who's sitting next to me. With that, and I am keeping track on the time, because we have a long day. There's a couple of things happening today. So with you for next week, at least on my part, I would like to I really believe that, especially since the two of you are here, the county executives, business center team, and then the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation team, I think there are differences, and at least for me as a council member, sometimes it's confusing when I get a phone call from a business and who do I send that phone call to? Should I send it to Jean or should I send it to Bill? If it's life sciences and a large business, I think it should go to Bill. But if it's actually a small business, it should go to you. But I think that should be laid out clearly and what the differences are and how that may impact the budget. The other thing that I would like to say is, as many folks know, I've been doing a tour with the director of DPS, the Department of Permitting Services, going to businesses that have challenges with this particular agency. And it has been made very clear to me among all the different businesses throughout the county that I have visited already, that there is such a lack of coordination and communication between departments. If you have somebody, I think the number one thing that we should be doing as a county is to let people know that if you want to open a business, come to the business center first. Before you sign a lease and get yourself in trouble, go to the business center first. Free consultations. We should be advertising that throughout the county, because there's one thing in common, and among all the stories that I've heard, is the lack of people just have no idea of what they were getting themselves into. And it's just heartbreaking. So that we need to work on, and looking at this budget and see how we can fix that. And there's no way we can fix it if we don't work together and talk to each other. Not just DPS in the business center, but also HHS. Think about all these restaurants. They need licenses from HHS. So that coordination needs to happen because it's not there right now. So that's all I'm going to say. Since you're coming back next week, please keep your questions short, straight to the point. Does anybody have a question? You do? Okay. Councilmember Belkin.
Thank you. So nice to see everybody, and thank you for everything that you do. Just a couple questions and comments. The Small Business Support Services, NDA, can you talk about why the split and how that makes sense?
Happy to. So as you know, I have reviewed these budgets over several years, and the reality is as our small business support services are growing, so last year the executive recommended and the council approved almost $877,000 for focus on black businesses in the county through several of our contracts, and that was under the incubator NDA. As we were going through the budget this year, I made the recommendation that we should divide those two so that the incubators, those specific county managed facilities and their programs and services are very clearly delineated, and then the other business services that we're providing through our contracts, our resource partners such as the Latino Economic Development Center, the Maryland Small Business Development Center, the Black Chamber, the Black Collective, that those had their own categories so that we could look at them correctly rather than seeing the incubator budget grow bigger and bigger each year.
So when we see the budget, we'll see those specific details for those specific contracts?
Yes, I provided that already to Ms. Michelson.
Okay, great, thanks. And then just to comment about I'm thrilled with the Business Center. You know, in my prior role, I relied, regardless of what it was called, you know, the person, and it's great. I think it's necessary for our small businesses. I think that in the packet is the the CRM system software. I think that is so critical because one of the primary challenges forever is that the county doesn't have a database of businesses, and not even the ones we don't know. We don't even have a database of the ones that we've had contact with in the past. So I just think that that's really important. I'm looking forward to hearing more about it. And in that vein, I just think that the county, we have to put energy, resources, brain power into how do we reach all businesses, because if you know who to call, like Chair said, you get free consultation. But not everybody, most businesses don't know who to call. And so I think that I would really like to see that just so much more developed. So just wanted to mention that. And then I also think from the perspective of the retention visits, as well as the Business Center, it's important to show the love and give advice and that type of thing, but the systemic issues, the systemic choke points that can be identified through every interaction with every business, I would like to see that a more formal process of how do we capture what's going on with these businesses, because they're the ones that they might have the solutions as well. So those are just my very quick comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President Glass.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate the conversation and the framing of it so that we can jump in deeper next week. But as we're trying to set the stage for next week, you teed us off by explaining the complexities in navigating our systems, and Councilmember Balcom alluded to that as well, and Mr. Tompkins, even you, stated that there were 8 different groups within county government that do different things. And so my top line question for you and Mr. Weissman is, how do you view your roles, each in as one of the 8, so that when we get into the budget next week, we could make sure that what you are saying is your role is reflected in the budget?
I'll go ahead and start. So if you talk about those 8 groups, only one of them has the name Economic Development tied to it, and that's Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation. If you look at the, again, Economic Development Strategic Plan, we are the lead organization to drive the overall economic development umbrella for Montgomery County with the specific areas of focus that we have. That's why we do have a marketing budget. That's why we have business development specialists, and that is a significant piece of our budget. Even though I carry the title of CEO, I'm a business development person, to be out on the street when I'm not here, working the business community. And when you look at it from that perspective, if you think economic development, unless it is something that is well known in terms of the planning process or well known in terms of the permitting process, we are the ones who should pull things together on behalf of the county. As you know, we have the Commerce Cabinet, where there are representatives, 14 representatives. Marlene Michelson is one of those representatives, to figure out ways in which we can work closely together so that we are of one voice and one mind, and so that we coordinate priorities. So that's a start.
Great, thank you. Mr. Weissman.
Appreciate the question, Councilmember. So of those 8 groups that Mr. Tompkins mentioned, I believe 6 of them are county agencies, excluding EDC and Visit Montgomery. You have the regional service centers, you have DHCA, you have Department of Ag, as well as several others. And so part of our day-to-day work is to coordinate within these and make sure, for example, that Visit Montgomery is a part of these conversations and we are on the lookout for opportunities and that they send us opportunities, continuing this no wrong door opportunity policy. But the other thing is, it is about, going back to what Councilmember Balcom said, finding these systemic issues. So I think if you look at the role of the Office of County Executive, if you look at the role of the Business Center, it is to find ways to make it easier for businesses. So whether that's a matter of finding these patterns that, you know, was on an email last week from Nadia Klute, our small business navigator, who is focused on one of these issues within DPS that sometimes the contractors can get ahead of the property owners, and so the property owners don't know what's going on, and the contractors are pointing a finger one way, and it leaves them very confused. So things of that nature that we can find to better make our government work is day-to-day what we are focused on, as well as just assisting any business that walks through the door in any part of government or government contractor.
And then just one last question. In that org chart, the county executive, it funnels through the county executive, and then are you the county executive's liaison?
For better or for worse, yes,
the
sir.
tough job of,
Yes, sir.
orchestrating and conducting this 8-piece set. So very good. I appreciate that, and when we engage next week, we'll be going deeper. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Sales.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Tompkins and Jake, for the overview and our new addition to the to our business center. I think we have a really dynamic team that can now better support the small businesses. I know before this transition happened, we were wondering how our small businesses were navigating the economic opportunities throughout the county. And now that we have our new permitting department chair, I was really glad to see him at the last meeting. I'm just really excited about this new strategic vision and the addition of the outreach personnel is also going to be really helpful with getting on the ground and really having a strong liaison at the forefront to ensure that questions are filtered through to the appropriate entity. And so I look forward to seeing what this CRM is going to develop and how we can better use those statistics and that information that these two new positions will provide. So I did want to make sure that the two new positions are just for the business center, just for the, so there'll be small business navigators. Is that in addition to the small business navigators that are already on?
Correct. So the county has, in fact, council created it in 2013, the Small Business Navigator. That is a unique statutory position that's not only helping and assisting businesses, but identifying those systemic issues that Ms. Balcom and Mr. Weissman were talking about. The business liaisons are our feet on the street. Currently, we have 3. The executive has recommended 2 more for now. We can get more into that later, but the navigator has a very unique role, although she is also assisting businesses directly. So I just want to make that clear delineation. The liaisons are our feet on the street primarily and assisting businesses in the communities.
So are these positions going to be geographically assigned, or how are they going to overlap what's already happening?
That is the plan. We have currently 5 regions, and so the hope is to put each one of these, if should the council choose to put 5 in, or 2 more in, I should say, is have 1 in each regional director's location. They also have, each regional director has staff themselves, and so they will need to be coordinating with them because they are also feet on the street. But the intent is to make them geographic based. They're not going to be sitting here in Rockville in an office. They will be in the community. Getting to know the businesses. Ms. Chettam joined us in November when I joined. She's been going around the county doing outreach in Woodmore, in Four Corners. I'm sorry, that's the same place. Up in Briggs Cheney. She's getting ready to work with Ms. Cadona in Mid-County to do outreach in that area. And just getting to know the businesses, getting face, letting them know that the county is there. We have resources, just as Ms. Fanny Gonzalez said, connecting to that, and also hearing some of the issues that are coming up before they get to the county.
Okay, because I don't know if there was budget item for marketing materials for those business navigators as they're going to businesses to introduce themselves and to share the information about what they can provide? Are we thinking that far down the line of how we're going to market ourselves and what we can provide?
We expect for basic marketing materials to be able to absorb that in CX budget.
Good. Okay. All right. That's all I have. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your presentations. And now we're going to keep on moving to FY24 operating budget urban districts. And we look forward to seeing you all next week.
Thank you. So I'm going to do something a little different and jump to the end of my packet first, which I think is probably the biggest issue I want to bring to the committee's attention. Then I'll go back and talk about some of the details of the individual urban districts. But the biggest concern that I have in this FY24 budget is that it dramatically increases general fund subsidies to the urban districts. In Bethesda, it goes from 0 general fund spending to close to $700,000. In Silver Spring, it's a significant increase. Wheaton, we made a conscious policy decision that it would have general fund subsidies because it did not have funding available through the urban district tax or the parking lot districts. And we were hopeful that one day Wheaton's going to redevelop to a point that it's going to be generating those taxes, but there was a conscious...
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen. But there was a conscious policy decision to say subsidizing that urban district would help that happen. And so this, in my mind, is a very significant change in policy from what we've done all along. And the assumption all along, by the way, is there's always been this idea of baseline funding and non-baseline. Baseline are the services we provide throughout the county. So the general fund was supposed to subsidize the urban districts for the services that were available everywhere else in the county. Some years the urban districts were doing so well, we didn't even give them the subsidy. They had plenty of money. But the funding that you see in this year's budget is far beyond baseline. And in fact, as I asked the executive staff, what is the current baseline funding? They weren't able to respond immediately. They need additional time. And so to me, that's it's a critical issue to try and understand what are the baseline needs, and then is it county policy to subsidize the urban district? So that's one major issue. The other related issue is that in Friendship Heights, we found a mechanism to raise money for the urban district which would not count against any property tax limitation through an excise fee. That appears to make a lot more sense than the way we're currently funding urban districts. So all of these funding questions, in my mind, need a deep dive before the council decides to significantly increase these budgets. And I've recommended that you do that after budget, and that temporarily you not fund increases in the urban districts other than the compensation adjustments we agreed would be funded throughout. So I'll now go back to the individual urban districts unless anyone has questions about the issue of the funding subsidy and my concerns about that. So
I think that's a major issue. It's a major question that I have. And if you all agree, we can start there and then we can move forward. Not sure if it will be you, Mr. Ken, who can answer this, but can you explain why the general fund transfers to the Bethesda is $600,000 and Silver Spring District $645,000 have increased so much in FY24?
So, Seamus from OMB, those transfers were driven in large part by the compensation increases. We also felt that some of the operating increases they had requested were reasonable. In the case of Wheaton, we had some safety concerns with we had safety concerns with the pedestrian areas outside of the Wheaton headquarters. We had concerns with safety on sidewalks in Silver Spring, and we have had numerous complaints about a number of other issues in Bethesda with rats. In fact, there are rat issues throughout the urban districts. So those plus the compensation increases drove the general fund transfers.
The compensation issue, I understand, and I am 100% in favor, because that goes, we just had HOC yesterday, and parking planning is another agency you can think of that it's similar to the Bob, right? And I do think we should be treating every single one of them equally. So I have no problem with that, but it really catches my attention, the amount of money that we're talking about here. Maybe we should be differentiating between compensation versus operating funds. The issues that you brought up, the trash bins, even some of the issue with the sidewalks that you also mentioned. Why isn't that DOT is taking care of those?
So Carson, I believe for Silver Spring is the main sidewalk issue, right?
So in the Silver Spring Urban District, the red shirt team, the team, clean and safe team, is the one that responds to all requests for services on brick and trip hazards or sidewalk or curb line repairs. DOT has their handful surfacing the remainder part of the region, so the urban districts were created to support a specific intervention with the high pedestrian foot traffic, the unique streetscape that is present inside of the urban district. As you're aware, Silver Spring is laden with the brick trip, I call them trip hazards because those brick stones are actually so frequently disrupted by the heavy vehicle traffic, the construction that's going on in downtown Silver Spring. If DOT had to do that kind of a response, the services that were provided to the surrounding parts of the region would suffer dramatically. So this is almost like a specialized team that intervenes at a much more rapid pace than DOT does, and in response to concerns that have been raised by the communities that expressed low vision acuity, or others that maybe have limited mobility as they try to traverse our more urban, more heavily pedestrian trafficked areas.
Noted. Thank you so much for that. Let's do this. As I let colleagues ask their questions, after we ask their questions, we can go back to the executive recommended increases for the urban district. There is a chart. I don't have page numbers here, but it's under the FY23 budget discussions, page 2. And then we can prioritize, say, high priority versus priority in each of the items. That will may help us move us forward, but I'm going to let Council President Glass ask questions. So after everybody asks their questions, we go back to this chart, and then we determine what.
And Councilmember, I'm
Yes,
sorry,
sir.
I forgot to mention earlier, one of the other driving forces for the general fund increase was because the PLD funding for both Bethesda and Silver Spring was cut by, I believe it was $300,000.
Right, and I know that T&E committee had a discussion on this yesterday. Maybe you want to share some.
We will fill you in when we get to that part. TLD, parking lot district.
Yeah. Do you want to ask your question?
Yeah. So I appreciate council staff framing the conversation this way and trying to figure out what baseline means. And I'm just going to ask Mr. Hartman, what is a baseline budget? What are baseline operations for the urban districts?
So baseline operations are supposed to be those services that the county would have to pay for if we didn't have an urban district. It's set at a lower level because, you know, DOT services in other parts of the county with sidewalk replacement and tree trimming and tree replacement, it's done at a different pace. So that's what it was intended to do. Earlier in my career, we zeroed out the general fund transfer and went to the parking lot district, and then at another point 10 years ago, we brought the general fund transfer back to help out the PLDs. Glenn Orland, Dr. Orland is very familiar with the entire history of the general fund transfer. So that's what it's intended to do in the law.
Can you enumerate a little bit more?
Yeah. So the Chapter 68A, which governs how the urban districts are funded, There are a number of sources of funding. One is an urban district tax, which is a property tax that falls under the charter limits as it is today. The second item is our transfers from the parking lot districts, intentional to support the urban districts. The third would be the fees on optional method developers. So developers who put in extra stuff in the right of way, they pay a fee every year for the urban district to maintain that. Then there's a general fund transfer for those baseline services. And now with the Friendship Heights bill, there's in Friendship Heights, we'll be charging a commercial district fee.
Thank you. So is it, what I'm hearing is that there are baseline services that are services that would otherwise be provided by the county. And you shared some of them, not an exhaustive list of all of them, but you shared some of them. Is it correct, am I hearing it correctly, that there are now more needs, and so those needs are now being considered baseline because they're not being met?
I mean, Seamus from OMB will help me out here.
I can ask your colleagues too. I'll defer to Seamus and then ask those whose feet are on the ground.
In other years, we would look at the PLD to pick up the tab. This year, because of the situation, as you've heard in T&E with the parking lot districts, we're shifting that to the general fund for this year.
So I can actually give you exactly what is considered the baseline services, and this is from 1997. It is litter collection 5 times a week, street sweeping 3 times a week, sidewalk washing twice a year, roadside mowings 12 times a year, emptying trash receptacles twice a week, and street tree maintenance as needed. And that's the same for each of the urban districts. But it doesn't seem that it's something that's been really studied in the recent past. You know, all of these are quite old.
We can get into, you know, a legal conversation, a Supreme Court level conversation about the original intent of something that was written in 1997 versus what the on the ground application and needs are today, right? I mean, that's a fair comparison. And so I understand that the needs are there. I'm not quite sure whether the term baseline is the correct phraseology. If there are new needs, let's have a new conversation. Let's update that 1997 law or authorization for this transfer of funds. We'll get into the PLD conversation in a second, but I have said plenty of times from the dais, I think our PLD structure needs to be modernized, and that was created long before 1997. I'll hit a pause on my comments so that we can continue this and pick it back up. I yield back.
Thank you. Do you want to go first? Oh, Councilmember Balkan.
Thank you. I first want to say that I appreciate the urban districts. I think that you do a great job. I think they're necessary, and I support the funding of the urban districts. I would love to delve more into the baseline services to know how much they are and when they're supposed to be, because I live in a community for the past 28 years that does not have an urban district and doesn't get litter collection, trash collection, street tree trimming, mowing on a regular basis. So if these are baseline services that are being provided that are done everywhere else in the county, we need to make sure that they're done everywhere else in the county, and they're currently not. So that's not a reflection on the discussion about the budgets today, because I fully support, I mean, we need to decide what we're going to do, priorities, that type of thing. But if we're going to make the decision, if we're going to call this a baseline services transfer from the general fund for that specific reason of the urban districts are doing a job that the county would normally be doing, or that the county is doing everywhere else, we need to make sure that happens. So that's it for now. Thanks.
We will have that conversation after the budget, and I think everybody will be in support. Councilmember Sells.
Thank you. My colleagues asked some of the questions that I wanted to ask, but I wanted to build upon what Councilmember Balcom said, because I noticed that East County and Up County don't have urban districts, and so have we done outreach with those districts to facilitate an urban district so that those baseline services could happen?
I'm sorry, Councilmember Sales, and I appreciate the question. I was looking at Councilmember Balcom because there have been discussions in the past with Germantown about moving in that direction of an urban district or even a business district. These programs start with the community interest, start with the because they, at the end of the day, they're locally governed.
Yeah.
I know the Germantown Chamber at one point was very interested in organizing in that direction. We have efforts underway in with the Friends of White Oak. And we provided funding for marketing activities and some placemaking activities. We've provided grants, a grant to the Pike District Partnership on Rockville Pike for a locally driven effort to market and create placemaking. Same with Friendship Heights down in DC line, and with the legislation Council Vice President Friedson sponsored. They are moving towards an urban district and that partners with a business improvement district. And we are going to be announcing a series of 4 different grants, one in East Rockville and 3 others in Long Branch, Tacoma Park, and Fenton, where we'll be providing grant support for the emergence of locally driven marketing and placemaking activities. We are more than happy. This is if the budget goes through for the CEC, these grants will be available in the next fiscal year, and we'd be delighted to work with Germantown again and other communities that want to create these opportunities. We have the grant funding, or council willing, we'll have the grant funding to continue.
Yeah, we just heard from the Economic Development Corporation, the Business Center, so I'm hoping there's some synergy to talk to the 2 communities that don't currently have those sorts of designations. You're mentioning business centers that have long held, business investments, and East County, we know, is heavily minority, a lot of immigrant populations who may not even know that there's an opportunity to create an urban district. And so it would be helpful for the county executive or these resources to go towards educating and sharing information about the benefits of creating an urban district and what that would entail. And if these have been in place since 1997, when was the last time that assessments were evaluated for these urban districts?
It's been a long time. I don't know if Seamus has the exact number, because these...
Have they ever been?
It's probably 20 years ago, because these are charter limit taxes when there was a limit on the revenue. If we increased these taxes, we would squeeze something in the general fund, because we had a limit on the total amount of revenue we could collect every year. So maybe it's an opportunity. We're certainly willing to work with your staff in this summer project. The structure we established in Friendship Heights might have some value because it's not a charter limit fee, but we're happy to explore that
and if I could just add, urban districts are effectively special taxing districts. It's where, the residents have said, we want an elevated level of service, we're willing to pay for it. And I think sometimes, and I think this may have even happened at one point in Germantown, where there was an interest, but the additional taxes were not of interest. So trying to balance that of wanting additional services, but ability and willingness to pay is part of the issue too, so.
Definitely, but when the county executive is recommending a 10% property increase and we're shifting significant resources to these urban districts, it causes concern, and I don't want this to become a habit when these are supposed to be self-sustaining districts.
Councilmember Sales, I think you'll find the county executive would agree with you. These grants that we've set up, the purpose of the grants are for these organizations to move towards self-sufficiency. So the ones that I've listed out to you will, as Friendship Heights is moving to self-sufficiency, we'll be looking for them to move in that direction in the future. So that absolutely, I couldn't agree with you more.
Okay, and then I had a question about the in Silver Spring, there's a youth in public spaces pilot program, and then I see enhanced security and ambassadorship. Do you have any more details about what that program entails?
So the youth in public space engagement opportunity is going to be focused on supporting young people and families in and around public spaces in Silver Spring. As you're probably aware, they are at this moment, especially some of our most vulnerable populations, and we've seen a significant spike in several risk factors or illustrations of them being relatively unengaged. So the idea behind this initiative is to specifically engage the Collaboration Council to bring in targeted youth service nonprofit agencies and other community groups to be able to specifically work with young people and families and launch initiatives in and around downtown Silver Spring, and specifically at public spaces like Veterans Plaza. We'll be bringing Gene Lynch Park online on June 10th. That'll be a great opportunity and location to do some really great outreach activities. The idea ultimately is to build a network of collaboration and support and to seed some intervention efforts that might provide more of a diversion opportunity for the young people, as opposed to some of the concerns that we've seen in their behavior and participation or presence in downtown Silver Spring over the last 2 years, specifically after the pandemic.
I could say the same thing about the up county and youth needing more investments up county. And so if we're thinking about public spaces for youth and thinking about the risk factors and where those are going to be targeted, I would love to see something for the up county. It's desperately needed. Thank you.
Okay, two things. Be mindful of the time. Number one is that I'm going to have Councilmember Fritzen make a comment before he has to head out. And then we're going to go back to the chart and we're going to prioritize. And at some point, I do want to have a follow-up on the youth in public space pilot program that it was just referenced. Why is that not going through a GEO grant or treated as any other nonprofit that is serving youth countywide? Why does it have to happen at the urban district level? So just get ready for that answer. But first, let me yield to Council Vice President Fritzen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, thank you so much to you. Really appreciate it. Just broad comments, specific comments, a request, and then I'm out of your hair here. The broad comments are, we absolutely should be having this conversation. I'm not sure that we're going to litigate all of these long-standing, decades-long challenges before this budget is completed, but I do think we need to be taking a deep dive into these questions of what our urban districts are set up to do, what the funding mechanisms are, where they're located. I agree with Councilmember Balcom's point and Councilmember Sales' point about really assessing that, and I think it's really important. I do think that we cannot lose sight of the fact that it's not just the additional tax that urban districts are paying. It's all the other revenues that the county then generates as a result of the urban district. And so, yes, there is a increased urban district tax in these areas for some of the increased services, but the reason why we have huge amounts of money being invested in these areas, in Bethesda and in Silver Spring and in Wheaton, is largely because we're providing services and creating the type of quality of life and economic development opportunities and safe spaces. So, if we have and when we have that conversation, which I hope we do, we should be looking at the revenue that we are generating as a result of these urban district, which is really important. The approach that the county has taken up to this point, I think we should revisit this, is basically the opposite, that we have looked at some of the areas that haven't had urban districts, and we've largely looked to reduce taxes and fees in those areas, like by eliminating impact taxes in opportunity zones, for instance, as a way to spur White Oak and other areas. I think we need to revisit that approach and decide, what is best. But I do think that's really important. I don't want to lose sight of the value that the urban districts are providing and the revenue that is generating for all of the other activities that we're doing countywide. And I think, at times it's being lost in this conversation. I also think the baseline services, the urban districts are providing much more than those baseline services right now. We haven't changed the language of the expectations, but the expectations have changed. So we should be taking a look and reflecting that as well. And so I really do appreciate all of the urban districts and all of the work that each of you do. Specifically, I will say I think Bethesda Urban Partnership, BUP, is a very good deal for the county. It generates tens of millions of dollars of additional revenue a year, and we're getting the better end of that bargain, and that money is being used to support services throughout the county. I'll note they have been very lean in their budgets between fiscal year 14 and 23. The budget has increased less than 1.5% per year on average. For 5 years, BUP received no increases whatsoever, even when the height of development was happening, when the needs of the organization and of the urban district were being, to borrow a term, taxed to a greater extent. So I appreciate the comments of the chair. I strongly urge that we treat the compensation increase as we have with other partner agencies and organizations. I think it is the highest priority that we take care of these issues. And I'll just note the rodent-proof trash cans in Bethesda and elsewhere. This to me is basic of basic line services for businesses and residents, safety and health, for quality of life and for economic development. We need to have spaces that people feel safe, that are comfortable, and certainly having rodents is a problem. I have experienced it myself in all three of the urban districts, particularly in Bethesda, where I spend most of my time, and would urge the committee as well for that. But thank you for allowing me to join. I appreciate the support of the urban districts broadly, and would urge support of the BUP compensation, and then for the urban districts more broadly. Thank you.
Noted. Thank you for being here. Councilmember Sales, and then Council President Glass.
Thank you. Just quickly, since Councilmember Friedson mentioned the economic return on investment that these urban districts are providing, how are you measuring that? How are you evaluating that? How are you tracking that? And that would just be helpful to know when we meet again. But feel free to share anything preliminary.
Yeah, and I will say urban districts you're not meeting on again, unless of course the committee wants to, but that's not scheduled. On the urban districts, you'll be making your recommendations today.
Yes.
And
that point can be part of the conversation after the budget, when we study, analyze urban districts, we can add that, and I think that's a very important question and comment.
Yeah. So if I can take you back to the memo, and my apologies that it doesn't
Ms.
have...
Michelson, if I could just real quickly, I see Vice President Friedson left the room, but just for everyone's understanding, we are all very supportive of the urban districts.
Yes.
The question at hand is not whether or not we should have urban districts, it's how we adequately fund them. Yes. Please continue, Ms. Michelson.
Yes. So my apologies for not having page numbers. It drives me crazy when I have to read a document without it, so I'll correct it from now on. But I'm going to bring your attention to the page that starts Roman number 2, budget discussions, which has, some of the critical topics you wanted to talk about. The first is vacancies, and you'll note that even though there are many vacancies, many of them are either filled or about to be filled. And there is a chart on Circle 13 which lists each of the vacancies. I'm happy to go into detail if you want to, but the highlights are that there are some lapse positions with the lapse trying to meet the executive's goal, which was where he did put some additional lapse in the urban districts, and a lot of the rest of these are being filled. So do you want to have any more detailed discussion about this?
There are a couple. I mean, the one in Wheaton, Public Service Worker 2, fees vacant 3,386. That's not the only. There's another one like that in Silver Spring. I mean, it's a long time. What's going on here? Are they needed?
These are part of saving mechanisms.
Want to introduce yourself?
Oh, yes. Luisa Cardona, Mid-County. I'm part of the Wheaton Urban District Director. So I can speak certainly for the Wheaton one and the one that we've had open for that time. It's part of a saving mechanism. Do we have needs in terms of filling staff, but we also understand the need to save, and to save in terms of funding. And so these were part of OMB recommendations that we needed to instill more saving mechanisms.
Does it mean that you're not trying to fill them? I don't understand that. Can you please?
So in many cases, it's because OMB has provided them with a funding parameter in order to meet that funding parameter, they have had to cut positions they would otherwise try to fill. So in the case of Silver Spring, there is the equipment operator that is being lapsed this year in order for them to meet their funding parameter. Then later on in the process, because we recognized there were a lot of long-term vacancies like these that they wouldn't be able to fill, OMB required that they also lapse additional positions. And that hit all of the ones in Wheaton as well as 3 in Silver Spring.
Thank you. You know, we're looking at these vacancies in all the departments, and I know that there's some nuance on this. So this position's been lapsed for 10 years?
So I haven't been with the county for 10 years, so I can't say for certain, but I know that some of these positions have been lapsed repeatedly. I know that for example, the equipment operator position, they have requested to fill it. They have a need for it, but in order to meet their funding parameter, they've had to lapse it a few times. For some of the other positions, in some cases, they've filled positions because there's so much churn in the positions. Then they filled the more recently vacant positions as opposed to the older positions, just because the position rolls over frequently.
Yeah, we saw that in transportation, that issue.
So I can more specifically address the equipment operator position. When I assumed leadership of the Silver Spring Urban District almost 2 years ago, we had, I think it was 5 vacancies, and shortly thereafter we had several transfers or departures from our staff team. I think ultimately we got up to about 9 vacancies when you think about the first 6 months of my experience in the county government. So from that time, I've literally spent almost every month hiring in a hiring process for 2 or 3, sometimes 4 positions at a time. All that to say, we've made a tremendous amount of progress as far as filling our staff positions. I think we've done more hiring in the last year than we've done in the last 5 years. The equipment operator position specifically ran into challenges because we were trying to right-size the position relative to DOT's positions. However, as we were in the process of doing that, the lapse conversation came up with regards to the budget, and that position seemed like the natural position to put on pause so we could work out and make sure that we got a very good description, very clear hiring. That position plays an integral role in supporting many of the vehicles and the specialty equipment that the team employs throughout the urban district, and it reduces our need on sending equipment away for repairs that are costly, but also the scale back the ability of the urban district to respond to needs that come up, whether they be landscaping or tree maintenance. And tree maintenance is very important when we talk about storms and debris getting thrown into the road. With regards to the other positions, we are currently actively in recruitment for 2 public service workers, and just like you probably have heard from DOT, those positions have proven to be very difficult to fill. Despite offers being sent out, we often have moments where some sort of the process on the backside is not necessarily fully followed or adhered to, and we have to reset the process all over again, despite when we think we've actually made a hire. So I will say, though, that we've only got 3. We've received comments from the community that have very much appreciated the additional presence and staffing that the urban districts have been able to provide across the board. Our advisory committee has actually even requested an addition, more members of the clean and safe team to be present, and we are hoping that we will fill these 3 immediately vacant positions. But to further clarify, the extension of the time of the vacancy has been, I would have to say, an administrative oversight, in that we could have just as easily filled the 4 PSW, we call them public service workers, in the older vacancy, but they were just assigned to the more recent vacancies. So that we have filled a significant number of the staff positions over the last 2 years.
Thank you. Yeah, okay, we don't have any more questions on this. Can we move forward?
Yes.
Or do you have one more question? Go ahead.
So I see that Silver Spring has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 position, 12 vacancies. How big is your staff currently in Silver Spring?
The Silver Spring staff is about 35, fully staffed. Most of the vacancies listed actually have been hired. That list was pulled before several recent hires. So we've hired we've promoted internally 2 supervisors. 1 came over from DOT. We've hired our program specialist. We hired a PSW back in March, and we have 2 in active recruitment.
So fully staffed out at 35, so how many out of these, I guess, 15 positions are part of that 35, or in addition to?
All of those positions are included inside of our FTE for the urban district.
So you're understaffed?
At present, we have 5 vacancies in our PSW and PSW line, 1 for our public service aide, and I believe that's, and our program manager 2 for marketing. Sorry.
It may be helpful just to see what the current staff is, what's outstanding and what is filled. Okay, thank you.
Perhaps the directors for Wheaton, do you have any comments or questions or on the vacancy situation, or besides what you just said already? Nothing else?
No, I mean, it is that it's not that there are not needs, but we also understand the need for savings. And the one that has been vacant the longest, our understanding is that happened during the first recession, where the director was given a choice of either we have to let staff go or you put this position in a long-term lapse.
Understood. I think we can move forward.
Yeah, so the next issue is one that I think I will let Council President Glass address, because it is about a transfer from the PLD to the district, unless Councilman President, you prefer I do, but I thought I'd turn it over to you.
So if you would like to tee it up, and then I can provide insights
Sure,
as to the
absolutely.
conversation that we had in committee yesterday.
So every year we look at the revenues in the PLD to determine whether it's meeting fund balance targets. And this is part of the decision about how much from the PLD can be transferred to the urban district. And Dr. Orlin, in his assessment of the funds in the PLD, saw that the Wheaton parking lot district is doing much better, and the fund balance there is significantly above the target. I believe the target is 25%, and it is now at 80%. So he believed that additional funding could be transferred from the PLD to the urban district, which would provide a decrease in general fund savings. So it's actually a net reduction for general fund. So Councilmember Glass, did you want to add, or?
Yeah, so I appreciate that. And so what I just pulled up on my computer, but I'll state out loud what the fund balances are as a percentage. in FY24, it's projected that Bethesda has a 24% fund balance, Silver Spring a 26%, and Wheaton having an 80%. And those numbers are much better than they have been in recent memory. And so what was shared with us, and Councilmember Balcom can add to the conversation, what was shared with us is that these numbers are better than what they have been, but also that they represent unutilized projects, the projects that remain to be funded. And so we had a really good conversation, but the committee unanimously decided that the fund balances are healthy, and rather than have them look good on paper, we need to put them to work. And so we made a decision to move forward with a number of programs, and also decided to use, to swap funding that was originally put in the general operating expenses by the county executive in this budget, most notably a fence in Silver Spring that is being, I think, $300,000 that is being proposed for a safety measure, and it was originally in just the operating budget, but we decided to transfer those costs to the Silver Spring PLD because the funds are there and we want to use those funds. And so here we are engaging in a similar conversation about how much we can use those funds.
So rookie mistake on my part. We had that discussion without understanding the significant increase from the general fund into the urban districts. So I think that, it's a balance. I think it's important, and we heard from staff that without those reserves in the past couple years, it would have been very difficult. So I think it's important to have healthy reserves. However, I do, the point that we made in T&E, was it yesterday? Monday, okay, I was going to say, it's a long week. That we need to make sure that we're doing the maintenance that is necessary for the health and safety of our community. And so we felt a little bit more comfortable using some reserves in that regard. It changes it changes my feeling about that, given the discussion we're having about the transfer of the general fund transfers.
And I appreciate the acknowledgement of how complicated this is and having a bifurcated conversation, right? And we knew that you and I, serving on both those committees, were going to have a conversation on the PLDs today and how best to support the urban districts. But again, I will restate what I said earlier in this committee session, is that we need to have a real conversation about funding PLDs and funding our urban districts. And the reason we're muddling through this is it's complicated. And if the authorizing legislation was passed in 1997, and we recently passed a newer model for Friendship Heights, we have some work to do. And I would like to maybe suggest a joint committee, right? T&E and economic development. And so Councilmember Balcom and I will be ready for both. But I think that's what's in order. It doesn't help us in the here and now, but we got work.
Well, there is a little bit of help, just that $200,000 that will be transferred from the Wheaton PLD. So this committee will have an actual reduction to show in this budget. For the a reduction. And I'm not going to talk more about the transfer discussion, because I think the committee has just concluded that we really do need to have a broader discussion this summer that involves the funding for both the PLDs and the urban districts. So we'll figure out a way to bring that back to you. And then the next issue is what you want to put on the reconciliation list and the increases from the budget. My suggestions to you were either to not put anything on the list until we figured out these funding mechanisms, or to put them as priorities, not high priorities. I think I heard a little bit of interest on the part of the committee in treating compensation
Yes.
related to BUP a little differently. So you see that for the urban partnership, there's a 205,000 increase. 127,435 of that is compensation.
That is, to me, and I saw people in agreement that that should be a high priority. That's compensation. Is that right, or? Yeah, high priority, the compensation. I believe it is. I'm on page.
Yeah, sorry, no
Page
page
list.
numbers. It's the chart under D, increases from the FY23 budget, so.
So we're going through that, high priority, or elimination. I think, yeah, go ahead.
So, of the 205,000, you're saying 170,
No, 127,435 is the percentage that is compensation related. And 77,450 are operating costs.
It's just not broken down in this one. It's in another one. It's another page where it says 170. Where is it again? Oh my. It is in a
Could we all take a moment to number our pages, please?
It was, where's my page?
It is Circle 9.
Circle 9. Yes, is operating is 77,000, right? And then 204 would be the compensation. 127 is a compensation. I think high priority is a compensation, for sure. That way,
so that's 127,435.
Right.
yes, that's it. And that goes side by side by the decisions that we made with HOC, we're making with parking and planning, and any other agency that we'll deal with, just because we should be, considering them the same. So,
And to clarify, that's compensation adjustment, not additional staff?
Correct.
Adjustments,
That
yeah.
is for the
adjustment,
increment, the cost of living, and health insurance is what fits into the compensation number.
now the operating part, that's the 77,450. I would say that's priority instead of high priority, in my view. Unless there is disagreement here.
I second that.
Okay, and
I do think that, I know I don't know if we want to get too far in the weeds, but I think the pest control is a high priority.
And that is a separate item.
That is
So,
Yeah.
okay.
If you want to recommend $10,000 be a high priority for pest control in the Bethesda Urban District.
because it's separate.
So right now, on the rodent-proof trash cans, which
That's
by the
different.
way is in addition to pest control that's already
Yes,
built
that's
into their budget.
50,000.
The rodent-proof trash cans and also recycling bins are 50,000 for each
Those are so
of the.
inexpensive trash bins. I mean, is that coming? Yeah, are they? Yeah, what's the guarantee of those? That I will say, I understand it's a health issue here.
If I could jump in on, I'm just looking at it right now, on $50,000 for pest. Where,
This is, it's the second
again, we're
item.
flipping through various pages here. If I could just see yours. Got it. Okay. Rodent-proof trash cans and recycling bins for $50,000. Are the current trash bins not doing the job? Bethesda, yeah. Mr. Fosselman, sorry.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Fanny Gonzalez, and committee members. Peter Fosselman, Bethesda Regional Services. Thanks for having us today. I just want to acknowledge that the director of, the executive director of Bethesda Urban Partnership, Jeff Burton, is behind me, as well as acknowledge the hard work of our 3 urban district managers. Crystal Ruiz is here, Carson Henry, and then for Bethesda, TJ Jant. So thank you. It is $50,000 for each urban district in terms of the rat-proof trash cans and recycling bins. The current cans, the rodents are, we had rodent control for a number of years. got worse. A lot of it is due to, not the rodents got worse. A lot of it's due to the streeteries. All of the urban districts have streeteries. People are dropping food. The trash is overflowing in certain areas. We've had to increase services. The rats are literally jumping out of the trash cans. You can see them during the day. It's bad. So we've increased services more. A couple of times a week, there are actually rat terriers. They're released in the middle of the night to help control the rat population. And it was determined that maybe having rat-proof trash cans and recycling bins might further deter the rats. They are expensive compared to a regular trash can, you're correct, but I think it would help a lot with the population of the rats because of the streeteries.
Yes, thank you for that explanation, very vivid explanation. And I see it, I just want to reiterate, it is in the 3 districts. After that, I think it's a high priority. And I will mention, just because I see Ms. Gail Roper all the way in the back, she and I just came back from Taiwan with the county executive. Let me tell you folks, they do not have trash bins in Taiwan. People are so clean. They take this trash home. It's amazing. We have so much to learn from other cultures, and I'm gonna end it there. But hopefully one day there won't be any trash bins that we need to worry about, and save $50,000 per district.
So
but I would say that's then a high priority. Can we move forward?
So just, yes.
Yes.
Agreeing.
So
Okay.
150 for each district.
Yes.
50 for each,
each
totaling
district.
150, correct.
Thank you.
Exactly. Then the next one that I see, it's Silver Spring Urban District. We have the sidewalk repair. Why is that not DOT? That's because it's special sidewalk designs? or-
DOT is doing sidewalk repair, and my understanding is this is a more intensive level to be able to react more rapidly than they can as they service this throughout the county.
Okay, is that the same thing with the lighting upgrades? Because isn't that DOT too? With lighting, number 3, enhanced lighting upgrades.
So I don't want our counterparts in Silver Spring to be targeted as part of the urban district. Really, a lot of our services also include, instead of DOT, the sidewalks and the lights become our responsibility. DOT transfers them to the urban districts. Therefore, that cost then comes out of the urban district budgets within those boundaries versus DOT. We work a lot with their contractors, but a lot of it comes then to us. We try to negotiate, but I don't want Silver Spring to be, we both share.
Is this part of the safety plan
Yes.
too?
Yes.
That's what I thought. Okay, so
the
that's
other
me.
side of this is that we've identified there are several areas that could benefit greatly from enhanced lighting, specifically around the areas where we've seen safety concerns elevated from the community. So this money is intended to find ways to address that, but also maybe and support some place-making efforts, so that this way we can do it in a way that feels makes the urban districts feel welcoming as well as not just
Thank you. Any comments?
It raises lots more questions, but we'll address that after the budget about why such services are transferred over to the urban districts when they are conducted by DOT or other agencies in all other places.
Yes, just a process question in terms of the one-time only amounts. So do these numbers become part of the base budget for 2024? So when we look at them in 2025, will we know, like, where are the one-time amounts from last year, and how are we building year to year to year?
Right.
So the one-time amounts are left out of the base budget. So in this case, it's the rat-proof trash cans, the pedestrian redesign, and the wayfinding sign package. All of those are one-time items. The rest of them are ongoing and are baked into the base budget for the future years.
So when we look at the side-by-side 23 to 24, we're only looking at the for 23, you've pulled out the one time that we funded last year?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Right, and when things are pulled out, they are noted in the budget. If they are left in, they are not noted. So we will have to be cautious to make sure that as we look at next year's budget, that anything that was identified as one time was actually pulled out. So on the sidewalk repair, did the committee want to identify that as priority or high priority?
There's no way I'm gonna say no to sidewalk repairs, you know that. So I will say, I will say yes, but I'm looking at my colleagues here. Any priority, high priority, anybody?
I think it's a high priority. We heard about just this morning in the autism awareness breakfast that, you know, the curb cuts that have now accommodated not just wheelchairs, but other pedestrians when you're rolling your suitcase. So we don't want anyone. I saw the other day someone was pushing their baby in a cart, and she was, granted she was on her phone, but there was the sidewalk was, you know, cracked, and the baby could have flipped out of, you know, the stroller. So, you know, we have to be mindful of everyone who uses our sidewalks of different modalities. So,
What I don't like about this exercise that we have going on is that you're asking for $200,000 and you don't even show, you know, which sidewalks are we talking about? Because throughout the county, I can easily find sidewalks in Wheaton that need immediate repair. And I don't see Wheaton sidewalks in this memo right here.
it wasn't for.
And that bothers me, let me just say here. So it's why is this more a priority than in other urban districts? And I'm not even talking about the county in general, urban districts.
And I'd say for urban districts in Wheaton, we were able to pull savings from previous years and put that money aside for sidewalk repairs for this year, but they were very needed. And it was just a matter of, you know, COVID, different things were used less. Therefore, money was we were able to pull, but each region is different, so we support Silver Spring's budget ask as well.
Also for Silver Spring, they have the brick sidewalks, which have more problems in general. You know, as part of our budget discussion, we talked about how the streetscape design guidelines that are forthcoming for Silver Spring hopefully will address that and require fewer repairs. And Carson has an extensive list of every area where there's, I'll let Carson speak to it because he's the expert on it.
The reality of it is there are long-standing, we have a sidewalk that's actually completely sinking and needs an engineering analysis. It's propped up against a building. We just repaired the landing portion so that at least from an immediate standpoint, we're okay. The issues in Silver Spring can pop up literally next month. There can we were, just to give you a small example, along East-West Highway there was a complete sinkhole that popped up in May, and then a couple months later there were 3 more that were going down Newell Street. And so because there's so much rapid development going on and so much heavy equipment going on traveling along Georgia Avenue, Colesville, there's huge impact to the side streets. So we have a lot of separating subbase and areas that we may not even realize are deteriorated until they start to deteriorate after the cold weather and the water gets into the joists and everything. So the reality of it is, what we did is project off of sidewalk corner repairs, what we've been seeing as trend. A repair project can range from anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000, depending on how big the project we discover. But it gets exponentially harder to predict this because of the brick. And so that is the clear
Thank you. I'm just gonna move us along, but I will suggest to you for next time, when you come here, don't make the assumption that we know exactly what you're talking about. We have technology here. You could easily put up a PowerPoint, show some pictures, so we can see members of the public who may live in Poolsville, but that, you know, other parts of the county, so they can understand what's happening. It's part of the communication theme that I raised before this panel. that we as a county, we really need to step it up. I see, Mr. Fosselman, you have a question?
Thank you, Madam Chair. While we're on sidewalk repairs and maintenance, I just want to add that backing up when we had talked about the increase of roughly $77,000 for operating costs for BUP, they do sidewalk repairs, which DOT does not do. So some of that cost in the $77,000 is for sidewalk repairs. So that's something to keep in mind when you're doing your high and low priority.
You heard the sidewalks are my soft spot in there.
Yes.
I see what you're doing, Pete. Okay, can we move on?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
the next one is a Youth in Public Spaces pilot program. And the one thing I will add about this is in comments, this is going to be a cooperative effort between different parties, and they indicated that they would not be ready July 1st to start this. So even if the committee decides you want to fund it, you may want to fund it at, or recommend funding at a lower amount for this inaugural year. So, and I would just say, again,
This is that we're finding in Wheaton?
no, this is the Youth in Public Spaces pilot
yes.
program, which, Councilmember Sales raised some very legitimate questions about, which is why here and not elsewhere. So I don't know whether the committee is inclined to recommend it, but I just wanted to make that note about it not being ready on day one.
Any thoughts on this?
Can anyone speak to the program?
I'll start and then turn it to Carson. As folks know, on the council members know that we do have we've been addressing issues around the county with youth. There was a discussion before the committees earlier today or yesterday. I lose track too, about youth programs and the collaboration council on the role of the recreation department and how they're targeting different parts of the county for attention. Certainly in our discussions on youth issues and our discussions in downtown Silver Spring, this is one of those areas that the team feels that we need to enhance attention to. The urban districts traditionally do handle safe activities. I remember from my time in Bethesda, I had a staff person working to organize young people who were hanging out at the Chipotle. So this is not unheard of, and the partnership with the Collaboration Council and other county departments is what this is intended to get out and bring some structure around what the young people are up to in downtown Silver Spring. And let's face it, young people want to be where everyone wants to be. And downtown Silver Spring is an attractor, and they want to be there too. We just want their experience and the experience with their families to be more constructive. Carson?
Yeah, I think we can't underline how important this particular initiative is to safety, specifically in response to concerns that have been raised from our local business community, especially those that operate in and around our public space locations. They've cited multiple situations where they feel that the young people need to be more specifically engaged. But what the question came up earlier, why does the urban district do this? The urban district focuses on providing a clean, safe, and welcoming experience for the businesses, the communities, the residents, and everybody and visitors to our premier locations. Silver Spring has proven time and time again to be a very big draw specifically to young people, and we have found specifically in these areas that this is where we have the greatest opportunity to make a very big impact and divert and support young people who have proven to be vulnerable to some of the situations and safety concerns we've seen in and around these particular parts of our county.
I can say the same thing about Wheaton Mall. I can say exactly the same thing, and I don't feel comfortable doing this. The need is there. Nobody here is going to argue against that at all. Is it the job of the urban district to coordinate this type of programs? No, it's not. We have a whole bunch of nonprofits, and the committee that oversees that is the GO committee, getting all those grants and making them accountable and making sure that we're coordinating countywide. The exact same problem I have in Wheaton. So I'm not gonna support this. I'm gonna say I'm gonna eliminate it. That's just me, and not because I don't like youth. I love the young people. I have 2 little children. Okay, but it's not your role. So,
If I'll just jump in, because Mr. Henry and I, a decade ago, worked together and first met when we were helping activate and create safe spaces for youth in public spaces, particularly in downtown Silver Spring. And so I know his interest and his expertise in this. And so I don't doubt any of that, and I don't doubt the capacity to do it. I question whether it should be in the urban district budget. And so let's have another conversation, perhaps with the Collaboration Council, perhaps with other agencies and organizations, because I agree with you about the need, but I don't think it should be in this line item.
can we say, because we have high priority, we have priority, and that's all we have? And I would say do not list, but that's me. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel the same way in terms of, I also think there's a learning curve. I mean, there are other organizations that do this work, and I think it's important, but it's important for all areas. So, and we're at the point where we're trying to get things off the list. So we have questions about this one.
Councilmember Sells?
I too would agree, given the original intent of the urban districts. I think it may be more reasonable to talk with the regional services centers about programming that they can create or support to enhance those sorts of initiatives. And yeah, I'm just not sure how this fits into the current structure of the urban districts. Unless you're, if this was like a workforce development program where we're going to, hire students in the summer to do some of the jobs that have gone unfulfilled for, how many years, I would be open to that sort of recommendation or that sort of idea. Our kids need opportunities for employment. Leave the mentoring to our nonprofits.
Thank you. I think I heard the committee to agree that we're going to eliminate this in the sense that we're not going to have it in this budget, but we're going to, you should talk to the GEO committee and nonprofits to make sure that those needs are filled there. And HHS, exactly.
And I do want to emphasize for all the ones that are on here that are safety, I think if they're pulled out of the urban district, it's not that they shouldn't be addressed. It's just that this is the wrong place to do it, and we'll get to a couple more of those. But the next one is the lighting upgrades.
I agree with that. Is there agreement on this for high priority, or?
Let's hear more about them. The lighting updates, upgrades.
So again, it's this is priority to focus on safety and nighttime visibility in high priority areas, specifically those that have been articulated through the same constituent base that we referenced earlier. The idea would be that we would possibly do 2 or 3 projects this year, specifically enhancing the lighting that, and either upgrading LEDs or adding lighting in places that don't currently have lighting in the urban district.
All right.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a question. I keep hearing about concerns about safety and nighttime activity. Were there any recommendations for camera installments, or?
Not from the urban district at this time. In reference to the previous conversation, the camera conversation has primarily existed inside of MCPD. They've installed several mobile locations that have been very well received from the community, very effective. However, they don't do lighting, we do. So we've stepped into the lighting portion. And in the public sector, I'm sorry, the private sector has also pursued funding through Fenton Village Inc. And we've just recently done a community walk where they will be seeding money for local businesses to add cameras and lighting as well. So this is a consolidated effort, a coordinated effort through a variety of collaborative partners.
And I would just add that the public safety committees, there is a budget line on the county executive's budget on cameras, and I think he pays $500,000 to install them in key places, but it's in that committee, PS.
Yeah, I thought those were traffic enforcement cameras. This is surveillance. Okay.
It was actually advocated by people in District 6 in Aspen Hill, community members whose cars were being vandalized, and gave the push, and there was a law that passed in the previous council for this to happen. I'm going to move quickly, guys, just because it is 3:09. Okay, so trash cans were already,
I just clarify, high priority for the lighting. I just want to make sure I heard the committee's
I
decision.
think it is high priority just because of the safety issue. Okay, moving on. Trash cans, we talked about it, high priority. Moving on to Wheaton. Wayfinding sign package. I get it. Look at you. You got see?
I can't take, Luisa Cardona, Mid-County Director, I can't take full credit. These were created prior, can I keep one though? Yes. So this package is actually part of when the building was constructed. We're still kind of trying to play catch up with that because once it was opened, it was during the pandemic, so we're playing catch up to some things that fell through in the construction. As you can see, this was part of the proposal that was submitted when the building was constructed. It is wayfinding in terms of how do I know where I'm going or what this building even is. I don't know if you guys have been to 2425 Reedy, but it's not that easy to navigate or know where you are. So this is signage that would be located on the outside of the building. We're only looking at the poles because we've reduced the cost. You see a location plan as well as what the design types may be, and there's poles. So it would direct you of this is the direction of the building, this is the direction of the library, this is the direction to the mall, in order for individuals to be able to navigate the space. This is part of the urban district's budget because, again, being clean, safe, and welcoming, and to be welcoming, people should know where they're going.
And this will go side by side with the recommendations from the planning department on the Wheaton study. They just finished a Wheaton study, and this was one of them. And also the Wheaton Regional Park. They also finished their master plan last year, and waste finding was one of the recommendations. So hopefully, once we have funds for those two areas, it can all be in sync, which is the goal, right? I personally agree with this. I think it's a high priority.
I love this and would love to have it in Germantown too. We did a study 10 years ago with the Urban Land Institute and got a funding package for the signage. And this is a perfect example of every community should have wayfinding signage. I know that that's a discussion for another day. I think that this is a high priority. But it is also, so yes, I'm agreeing with you, this is a high priority for this budget today. We have got to have equity throughout our county. Thank you.
Quick question for Marlene. Would this be an issue that we can talk about it with Visit Montgomery? Would this be something that they can do in key places of the county that don't have an urban district?
Yeah, I don't think Visit Montgomery usually has this type of work within
Well, let's talk about it at some point and see how we can get into that conversation.
And I will say DGS,
DGS
creates signs for the county. They've created the signs in this building, and that may be another alternative, is rather than work with contractors to do this in a way that might be more expensive, but nicer, probably.
But it is part of the economic development discussion to ensure people know where to go. So maybe that's something that in the future we can bring in this committee with DGS. And I do think Visit Montgomery in many ways, because they can help us identify key places too. I don't know, I'm just trying to forward.
Well, you know, we worked with Visit Montgomery, and they would certainly do it if we gave them the money to do it.
Let's put that on the to-do list. Anyone else? Okay, high priority. Let's move on. So pedestrian redesign. I'm gonna consider this as the same conversation we have on sidewalk repairs. That is not DOT, is the urban district. Lots of work on pedestrian safety in Wheaton. Is this on the Reedy Road? where
This
is
is
this?
the passage, so directly between the Miriam Fryer Plaza and the building. You guys see that bollard walkway that's there. The design, I think there were certain expectations of how drivers would navigate it. Those expectations were incorrect, and therefore we need a redesign. Right now, the urban district has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars replacing bollards consistently because drivers are driving into it. So we need to redesign this space to save money, but more importantly, make sure that people are being safe. I was walking there at one point where a car hit a bollard. That bollard actually flew and almost hit someone walking next to the building. So we had some expectations, I think, in design that happens, and they just weren't met. Drivers were acting very differently once the space was actually designed and implemented.
Yeah, just so I understand it, so I presume it's from people turning off of Georgia, driving to Veers Mill, is that?
People driving, off of Georgia into Veers Mill and turning, so sometimes
When you're forced to make that right.
And you're forced to make that right, so often
Some people want to forcibly go straight.
Yes.
Okay.
Forcibly go straight, but then also these bollards are hit when they're turning into Triangle Lane. They're backing up in the space.
And so just help me understand, hundreds of thousands of dollars to reconstruct what is currently there, but $30,000 to redesign it?
For a design, simply a design.
So this is just the architectural or the engineering aspect?
Yes.
Got it.
So that when we spend money again, we spend it correctly.
Understood.
And that money will come from where? From the urban district?
Yes.
Okay. And you do have the money for that?
Well, it's the money that we would save on the bollards.
No, I know, but
hopefully.
no,
Yes.
besides the 30K, because you're gonna need money to actually.
It's not in the budget yet.
It's
Yes,
not in
no,
the
it's
budget
not.
yet,
No.
so, okay. So stay tuned, great, all right, cool. Yes, Lauren?
Yes, I had a question about this packet, the sign rules, the monolith, and the directory. Are these going to be digital signs? Like I've seen the interactive signs that are now in parking lots.
We have a proposal for digital signs. That proposal was not put forward at this time due to funding limitations. So no, these are not digital signs. These are printed, stagnant signs. The proposal was created before, so it might show a picture of a digital sign, but based on the funding we asked for currently, it's pretty much just what we're looking at is doing these pole signs.
Okay. What's the, do you have a price difference in those signs? Because in thinking about, you know, that particular building and how, you know, transformative and, you know, innovative and futuristic that building is, I'm just wondering what the
Yes,
costs
the digital
associated.
sign is going to be about $270,000 because we have to add additional lighting to come out to the signage. So it's not just the actual sign, but also what we put in it, the wiring. That's what moves up the
can wait.
cost.
Thank you for that. Going back to the pedestrian redesign, I think that, and I understand the pedestrian aspects and of what the urban district does. I think that this is a bigger issue because whatever the fix is, I would assume is going to be very costly. And I think that I would think that this would be a DOT project.
And the advantage of having it go through DOT is they're looking at all opportunities for pedestrian improvements and where they think it's the highest priority. So when you take it, you know, just one urban district focusing on one issue, it's hard to tell how this relates to other pedestrian intersections that may also be causing problems.
Right, and I think that from the perspective of assuming that you go through the study design and then it goes over to DOT, I would assume that the urban district wouldn't do the fix. I think that DOT would do the fix. Anybody correct me if I'm wrong.
So, a couple of things. My understanding is that DOT has been consulted on this pedestrian redesign due to the safety components of it and are in agreement that it needs to happen. And my understanding is also that currently the urban district is responsible for.
So what often happens with these projects is we work with MCDOT in very close partnership. They pretty much fulfill the project. They just ask for our cost codes. So we have to put the money for it. It's not that it's not in conjunction, or actually MCDOTs, they're putting it forward, but they will charge us for the fix.
But do we have any idea how much it's going to cost?
No, that's why we're looking at the design. I will say, from my conversation, it didn't see, but I'm not an engineer, right? That's why we need the engineer to review that. It potentially might not be super expensive. We're hoping it won't. We just don't want to continue spending money on something that continues to be destroyed.
Okay. Is that a high priority?
No, I think that it should be a DOT.
That it should be a DOT expense. Is there any way the DOT can take on this, or what's the situation here?
I'll have to talk to the analysts covering DOT. I don't cover DOT at all.
Okay, if that's the case, can we just say it's priority now, not high priority, but then you're gonna go back to DOT, so they can get back to us before we vote on this as a full council?
You could, well, look at the other two.
Because you're the only one going down? Okay, it's a high priority for me. What about the other? Okay, that's two.
There you go.
And you?
Sure.
Okay, high priority. Never mind, forget what I asked.
I get credit for the save, though, don't I?
As you do, I will never forget. Okay, I think we're done with this list. You got everything, right, Marlene?
And the last thing, just quickly to touch on, is the racial equity and social justice analysis. And in the Office of Racial Equity and Social Justice, the urban districts got a 1 out of 3 potential points, in part because they had not provided data or responded to some of the questions that were made, from the office, the questions asked from the Office of Racial Equity and Social Justice. This is part of the community engagement cluster, and, in my view, the community engagement cluster should be right at the top of our, departments that is doing the work on racial equity and social justice. The office did say that they thought that there was some commitments that seemed to be demonstrated here, and we'll hope that they fulfill those and that there's better reporting in the future so the council can track.
Can we put a deadline here? Instead of saying the future, when can we get this done? This, because the Office of Racial Equity, they're waiting for their responses. Is that what it is?
They did get the responses and did not find them to be satisfactory.
So do they need to revise their responses, or what's going on?
And you can see that it's also, this is on page circle 14 and 15 of the packet. It describes what's there. You will find that, a lot of departments did not provide a detailed response. We're bringing it to the council's attention, hoping you can encourage that changes in the future, that there's a more cautious look at providing the data that is being requested.
Can you all commit to this?
Yes, absolutely.
Is this, when is the next opportunity for them to fill this type of reports? Is it next year during the budget?
Next year.
Oh, you have a whole year.
Well, a whole year is not what we'll use. I will say that for all of us, that a score of 1 is not acceptable.
No, it's not.
In any shape or form. We have not discussed this with the equity team to better understand what answers came through. We know that and it's unique because all the urban districts work individually, but then we put everything together. So we know that we need to review what's going on, but we can also absolutely commit right now that we know we can make changes across all 3 urban districts in terms of a language access plan that we all implement, in terms of reviewing our contracts and ensuring that it is going to minority vendors, of reviewing who is coming with complaints, and are we reviewing these complaints equitably. We know certain businesses consistently come, but is it a diverse? Is it really the makeup of all of our businesses? So we can absolutely make commitments right now to say that we know we need to increase the score, and it needs to be done immediately, and it's not acceptable.
Noted. Mr. Folsom.
Madam Chair, if I could just add, the questions because we have not really sat down, I think it might behoove us for the three of us, well, actually the five of us, sorry, and anyone else that needs the adjustment, to sit down with the equity team. To be honest, I found the questions difficult to answer in the capacity of what our jobs are and how we work with the community, and I think it's a lack of understanding on my part of how to respond to those properly. So I could use that kind of work, and I think the others would agree. But one thing that we did learn from is the budget forums as well as the current CIP forums. We've learned a lot about access for folks, including language, and we've been working very hard to provide that so that there are alternatives for folks that don't speak English as their primary language, as well as access to the forums through not only virtual, but also just simple access to the places and things like that. So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And if you have questions or if you need help to understand those questions, let us know. Next, thank you so much for coming. And the next panel that we have is FY24 operating budget for Worksource Montgomery, non-departmental account. Let's see. You can, if you would like to begin, feel free, okay?
Thank you, I appreciate that. So our partners from Worksource Montgomery will join us at the table here. This item before the committee today is the FY24 operating budget for the Worksource Montgomery non-departmental account. There is, the Worksource Montgomery organization receives funding from a number of sources. The item that is in front of you today is the non-departmental account, and that is the amount of county funding that provides the most sort of general operating funding and other support for Worksource Montgomery. Worksource Montgomery, of course, is the county's workforce development entity. I would just note briefly that the executive's recommendation for this non-departmental account is a relatively small increase of $63,279. It really is to just support sort of some of the increased costs that go on with providing continuity of operations. For this specific funding item, council staff is recommending approval as a high priority, given that it is for continuity of operations. I only would also note that the NDA did received a bigger increase last year in the FY23 budget to support implementation of 2 new initiatives. And so what the rest of your packet has, given that again the FY24 funding from the county perspective is fairly level, the rest of your packet discusses some of the other funding sources, the new initiatives and their status, and some of the other program areas that that our Worksource Montgomery partners are engaged in. So that's the only budget decision before you. But again, you can receive any level of update that you would like now, and also certainly can come back to follow up on additional issues after budget.
Thank you for that. I'm going to let Mr. Anthony Featherstone to give your presentation and perhaps introduce your team. Thank you.
All right, so good afternoon to the committee. I want to thank you for this opportunity and thank you for your continued support. Before I speak for just a few moments, I want to introduce several of my teammates that are here. To my right, John Hattery, our Deputy Director of Workforce Services. John handles everything in front of the curtains, all of our service and delivery departments. To my left, my colleague Nate Gordon, who is our Deputy Director of Administrative Services, who ensures that everything behind the scenes can support the work that we're doing with businesses and residents. Wanted to just provide a quick recap of where we are in FY23 before we move into 24. The one thing that we're most proud of is that when residents come to us needing employment, they are finding that when they come to our American Job Centers through our partnerships. Whether it's connecting to services that help you explore different pathways, connecting to training, or actually finding a job right now. That's happening. We're not perfect, but we're happy that more folks are seeking out our services and actually gaining impact, positive impact from our employment services. And when businesses come to us as well, looking to find employees, they're actually finding employees. So we're proud that our baseline of services that we offer are impactful. In 23, everything was focused on equity. We have a kind of a mantra is that we want every Montgomery County resident to have access to the tools for economic mobility. And so that's where everything is centered in all of the work that we do. We were able to deploy our 6th site in FY23 our mobile job center, which has already proven to be impactful in engaging more residents in increasing awareness and access to our services. We released our community asset map, which revealed well over 100 organizations that provide direct employment services within our county. Also released an e-service locator, which is beneficial to residents, businesses, and practitioners. From that, we were able to work with our partners to create a workforce recovery network, a network of 29 partners, which offer 35 programs, expanding services to over 2,300 residents that aren't typically walking through our American Job Center doors. We continue to work with our businesses day in and day out to understand their needs today, as well as tomorrow, providing financial resources through many of our grant programs. I believe we've offered to date in FY23 about $1.4 million in support to our business community. We have deployed our dual track reentry program, which is a connection with the Montgomery County Correctional Facility Job Center staff to staff in our American Job Centers in the community that work only with folks with criminal backgrounds who've been justice impacted. And so that's all they do, is work with individuals who've been involved in our judicial system. And so we're really proud of that. And I think last but not least, in 23, our Workforce Development Board for the county went through some restructuring. We have a new chair. We have a new committee structure by industry. We've added a youth committee to talk about work that we're doing with young folks, especially, I think, the career counseling program with the blueprint that's coming very soon. And so those are just a few things that we're proud of in 23. But there's a lot of work to be done in 24. Some things on the horizon that are coming in 24, we're going to continue our system building work. We want to release a system that's sort of a connective tissue with those 150 plus organizations that provide workforce services. So we can communicate better, we can share information better, we can provide true warm referrals so we don't send job seekers kind of here, there, and everywhere, creating a level of fatigue and frustration. We have a new website that's coming that'll enhance the customer and business experience, sector connector strategies that will kind of work it from the back end for our job seekers. If you want to get into this type of employment, this is the pathway from the training and employment standpoint. We're continuing to grow our partnership with some of our core partners, one being Montgomery College. We are starting our Coding Our Way Home program very soon, working in partnership with the Ignite Hub, looking to deploy a 5G boot camp and other programs in partnership with Montgomery College. And I think last but not least, because I can go on, we got a lot of new stuff coming. We're enhancing our virtual career center. There are a little less than 15,000 unemployed job seekers in Montgomery County right now, even more that are not counted in those traditional labor market statistics. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that everybody has access. And so we are enhancing our virtual career center to make sure that if you are able to and prefer to just receive services virtually, you can also receive access to funding virtually as well with minimal tape. So you'll be able to train and learn from home, but you'll also be able to take your credentialing exams at no cost without walking through a physical door or talking to an actual live person. And so it's just an expanded offering through our virtual career site. And I think last but not least, which is a huge topic, we are working shoulder to shoulder with Montgomery County Public Schools and Montgomery College and universities at Shady Grove to swing big when it comes to the piece of the blueprint that speaks to career counseling for kids grades 6 through 12. The short version is that we want to create a community of practitioners. We want to start young in 6th grade, teaching the language of career education so that each young person in our school system knows where they fit in the world of work. And they are self-practitioners so that they know what their style is and what type of work environment they fit into and that they don't fit into, so that when plans change post-graduation, they're not reliant on a WorkSource Montgomery or another community organization. They have agency and they know how to read the labor market and respond to it themselves. And so that's our goal in short with the career counseling program for the blueprint. But with that, I'll pause. I tried to go quick so I wouldn't take up too much time, but we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for that presentation. You do amazing work, and I had to tell you that although I don't see you every day, I do hear from people that had to work with you all, and the feedback has always been outstanding. And I can tell that you don't just do your job because you have a job, but because you love it, and that makes a lot of difference. I want to yield it to my committee members. No, you don't have a question? Do you? Okay. President Glass.
Mr. Featherstone, thank you very much for the presentation, and thank you for your team as well. So it seems like this appropriation is pretty straightforward, with a modest 2.9% increase to support back office operations, administrative support. I understand that. The question I have is about the continuation of the programs that were started last year. The Coding Our Way Home, and then the Employment and Training Services for Immigrants. Can you share with us how those programs are going?
Sure. And so we're off to a good start. Well, it's almost through Q3, so it's kind of later than a good start. But so the Employment and Training Program for Immigrants is fully underway. We had our first graduation yesterday with an organization called El Poder de Ser Mujer, the Power of Being a Woman, where they train 24 Latinas on culinary and entrepreneurial skills. Many have already built their businesses, and they've received continuing support ongoing. We also have a partnership with ASM Education Center, who's providing IT skills training for our Afghan neighbors. And we have several other programs with Identity, the Ethiopian Service Center, and so forth, as a result of the funding from last year. So we expect to expend and fully execute on that program this year. With Coding Our Way Home, it's off to a later start. So it's a very innovative program and an interesting setting because it's a correctional setting. It's a connection between facility-based and community-based. And so with the procurement process and nailing down a lot of the details that need to be considered, considering it's in a correctional facility and the technology that's required, we did get a later start. But happy to report that we have an agreement with Montgomery College and the Ignite Hub. We have worked out all of the many details that needed to be worked out, many of which we didn't know that we would need to work out at this point last year. And I believe we are starting Monday. And so will we reach full potential as outlined in the agreement last year by June 30th? Probably not. But I'm confident that with a start date on Monday, lessons learned that we'll learn between now and June 30th, that next year we'll have a full complement of data and positive outcomes that we can report to the committee.
Well, thank you for that. I'm glad to hear that the training services for immigrants and the partnerships with some of our most outstanding nonprofit providers is going well. I did read in your response about the late start for the coding, and so I'm glad to know that it's getting underway. You just said tomorrow or next week?
Our first class, John Hattery, Worksource Montgomery, sorry. First class of cohort inside MCCF starts Monday. 9 a.m.
That's great.
And marketing to community-based folks, reentry status community-based folks starts next week as well, and they'll be going to the Ignite Hub.
Thank you for that update, John. And so I know starting new programs, particularly in a very tricky setting, like the correctional facility, does take some time. And so I want to throw this out there, recognizing that last year there was an appropriation in the FY23 program budget for $317,000, and the program is just starting. How much of those funds do you still have left over?
We expect to expend roughly around 40% because we're just really getting underway with a lot of our expenditures.
Yep.
So, I think roughly about $150K plus or minus in the first year.
Right. So if only about 40% has been expended because of the nature of starting up a new program, do we have the capacity to roll over some of those funds and then cut this item in half to save half of that cost?
I'm going to look to my OMB colleague for some assistance on that. I believe that is probably the case if the funds have already been issued through the contract.
There's
We can roll over those leftover funds for their FY24 budget.
Very good. So I would like to motion that we reduce that allocation by half so that we can roll over the remaining funds from this year.
Sounds appropriate to me.
Is that?
Will that impact service delivery with the program? Or were you anticipating the full amount for the next fiscal year?
So the program at
I know
full
it's
speed
almost underway.
is for, it is valued at 317. So I think
Yes.
if we roll over what's unexpended, then we'll still have a full runway of funding for
Okay.
12 months next year.
I think that is the intent. That's the intent of the motion, I believe. And so
Oh,
if the
Okay, just want to make sure you have,
yeah.
you're not losing anything.
The 317,000 will remain in their FY24 base budget, and so what we're asking is the remainder of the unused portion for FY23, if that could be rolled over, correct?
That's what
Yes.
my motion was, yes.
Yes.
Not only have that remaining portion rolled over, but then reduce the FY24 amount by that same amount.
So that the FY24 total amount would be still the 317,
So
with half of it coming from the 23 allocation and half of it coming from a 24
Thank you.
allocation. And then the base of that would continue to be 317 for FY25.
Instead of an addition of the 50.
Yep. So the only thing we'll have to look at is that we are enrolling folks within and expect to enroll folks in the community that will carry over. And we'll still be receiving services next year. So we may have to look at the number of participants because it'll be prorated with the carryover from this year. And so we will have a full complement of numbers. It just may affect the new amount of participants that we enroll next year.
And how many participants is the program currently slated for?
50.
50s. So if you were able to get what hasn't been used in addition to the base amount, you could increase the amount of participants?
We would still serve the full number of 50, but we would not enroll 50 new participants potentially.
No, but
And
you
so-
could enroll more if you had more money.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So, just so I understand, is it possible, for what my request was, that the remainder of the FY23 budget for this program be rolled over, and then the FY24 line item be reduced by that rollover?
I believe, yes, that is possible, and that is, and again, we could certainly work on the specific numbers, but hearing your intent, I believe, that is possible.
And just to address Councilmember Sales's point, the fact that the program is just starting on Monday, I think adds a layer of difficulty to try and ramp up to the degree in which was suggested, that the addition of both funds would be able to create an even more robust program. I think, as stated, it's taken nearly 9 months to get to this point, which is just starting on Monday. So I would like to see how this year's program goes, and then next year we can have a conversation about ramping it up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't think that was to ramp it up. I thought it was to enroll additional participants if there are resources.
I'll say this, the program is just starting on Monday, so I think having a conversation about ramping it up even further after it took 9 months to get to Monday's inaugural class, I think there's difficulties in that, which is why I'm suggesting we take the cost savings and engage next year to see how this inaugural program worked so that we can further support it and ramp it up if it's warranted.
Okay, I just had a question because I'm looking at the programs that are already underway, and it looks like there's always a wait list for some of these programs. Some of the ARPA programs that were started, I think it was a bio program. There was only space for 30 participants. There was a wait list for that program. I'm also seeing that a lot of these programs that are shared in the Workforce Recovery Network had ARPA funding, What's happening with those programs? Are they sunset? Are those programs going away? Or are you asking for funding to carry those programs over?
So those programs are funded through ARPA funds, of course, through Maryland Department of Labor, and we also received an allocation from the council. And so we have already budgeted for the Workforce Recovery Network programs to continue through FY25. It is a performance-based initiative, so we hope and plan for everybody to perform well, but the numbers can change from year to year, and so that's separate and apart from our NDA with the county. But a big part of our 25% of our ARPA initiatives, which is funded by the council as well as the Maryland Department of Labor. And as far as the bio boot camp, I believe we are planning another bio boot camp now with USG and UMBC through that partnership, as well as Montgomery College. And with it being a pilot program, and I think every institution having to leverage resources, we want to continue to scale that opportunity because we see the demand from our communities. And so we hope to offer more bio boot camps in FY24 to more students because it works. And folks have finished and have gained employment within that pathway. And so we hope to do more in 24. We plan to do more in 24.
Thank you.
Councilmember Balkan.
Yeah, just a global issue about unspent funds. So in this is an example of where you got funded for a full year of a program and you're not going to use those funds. What would happen in general terms of unspent funds that were allocated to you? Essie, I'm sorry, Ms. McGuire.
Just as and you can speak more directly, but because this is a non-departmental account that then the executive enters into a contract with Workforce Montgomery, those funds then are embedded in that contract, and Workforce Montgomery would still have access to them. If the in the case of a department or a county, a county department, those fall to the general fund.
But so in this situation, for instance, if this program weren't starting this month and didn't get off the ground in this entire fiscal year, what would happen to those funds that were allocated for a specific purpose?
Go ahead.
So we are in the process of, I would say, revamping the invoicing structure for our NDA for the unspent funds this year. For our program funds like Coding Our Way Home as well as our immigrant programs, we invoice once the funds are expended, and so any money that we do not spend on either one of these specialty programs, we wouldn't draw down from the county.
Okay, and then we from a budgetary perspective, we would recapture those funds.
Yes.
So this is a similar process. We're just doing it proactively. For the if we recapture the funds, if we roll over the 2023 funds, take away from the 2024 funds, it's essentially the same as.
Yes, it's similar. We're sort of on two sides of the fiscal. Of the fiscal year, and also again because of the contract. But as Mr. Featherstone said, if the entity certainly doesn't invoice for work it hasn't completed, and so at that point then the funds remain with the county.
I appreciate the question and the clarity here. I also want to applaud WorkSource for the candor, because as we are going through this process and we are trying to do right by everybody, providing programs that are most impactful and beneficial, while trying to make sure that our tax rates are such that people can continue to afford to live here. It is an open and honest conversation like this about where you are in a program for us to be able to reduce next year's budget proactively by nearly $170,000, give or take. And I appreciate that. And so while the fiscal impact might not be the same in terms of tax dollars expended, it is important for the construction of the budget from our perspective. So now that we have essentially reduced $170,000, without, to the point that was made before, without reducing services one bit. Thank you.
All right, with that, I'm gonna move to, if the committee agrees to have as a high priority, the executive recommendation of additional $63,279 for the Workforce Montgomery non-department account. If you agree with that, high priority, yes?
That's
Yes.
fine.
Okay,
It
that's,
looks like we have $170,000 surplus now.
so that's in agreement. Is there something else that we need to work on this particular item?
I just wanted to clarify, so then the committee's recommendation is to reduce half of the 317,
Yes.
carry that over for the total, and just to take that as a reduction?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming today, and we're ready for the next panel. Council IT, operating budget, the external facing items for technology and enterprise business solutions department. Mr. Costas, there you go. Welcome, and the floor is yours to start this conversation. And I see our friends from TEPS here too. You can begin, thank you.
Yeah, if I could start just with a small number of comments. I ask your indulgence. This is the first time we're trying this. And we have taken a major department, Technology and Enterprise Business Solutions, and we're trying to see it through two different lenses. An economic development lens, which is the outward facing, and then the majority of the work that TEBS does, which is inwardly facing, making sure all our computers and all our cybersecurity work correctly. We've never done this before. And of course, unfortunately, the executive was not able to produce a budget for TEBS that would be split in this manner. So in a sense, it's a bit awkward. We'll learn from the experience. Next year, we'll do it better. Perhaps by the time we meet the full council to review the TEBS budget, we'll be a little bit stronger in how we approach it. But in the meantime, if you look to page 2 of my memo, you see how I, as your staff, and IT advisor, chose to proceed without having this split between external and internal facing programs. I identified a series of programs in the Office of Broadband Programs for Technology and Enterprise Business Solutions, and I'll refer to it as TEBS from now on, which I think are outwardly facing. And I invite you to have a discussion with my colleagues from TEBS on those programs, and then identified in the Office of Digital Transformation a comprehensive website, which is a new item, which the executive is asking for new authority to do. Once we go through these two discussions, my suggestion is that you take a position and then inform also the GO committee, which is going to be looking at the overall budget for TEBS, so they can actually incorporate your suggestions into their decision-making for the full TEBS budget. I think it's only fair that our CIO has a single point of reference for the budget itself, but at the same time, the GO committee, I think, is very eager to hear your opinions and your support, or not lack of support, for these items. So that's how we got here. It's a work in progress. There may be additional items that I should have included. To be honest, I sent my memo, I usually send a series of questions to the executive side, and I asked them, if you think of other programs that are outwardly facing, please let me know, and let's include them in the ECON committee discussion. None came back as suggestions from the executive branch, so you have what you have here. I'll stop there and see if perhaps Ms. Roper has some comments.
If the committee will allow, I'd like to just say a few things about the TEBS organization. So the TEBS organization, unlike most IT organizations, is very much a grassroots organization, and you'll hear about some of the work that we do. I think that kind of follows my career in terms of technology and being a community-based technology organization. Now, we do provide services, enterprise service, technology services to the entire county, including the police, Montgomery County, the school district, which is a significant part of the work that we do. But we have also moved to take some of the assets that we have and try to push those assets out into the community, like our fiber network, our ability to get federal grants and add value to those underserved communities. We also use our talent and our assets to advance economic development. You'll hear about that, community equity, and community services. So our discussion today will be short, and we'll just kind of go over some of those things that I think that the Economic Development Committee would like to know about the work that we do. Now, there is a juxtaposition in much of our work. We build internal systems that face the community. We do 311. We do permitting systems. So both internal as it relates to the work being done inside of Montgomery County, but also is the interface to residents and our constituents. And part of that would be the $1.5 million for the new website. That will be a total revamp of our website. Our oldest system within the organization is 17 years old. So we have quite a portfolio of business applications to replace in the next few years. So we touch the public through developing COVID systems, voting applications, establishing the first business continuity strategy. So if there is an event, a critical event, a catastrophic event here in the county, we can keep services up and running so that we can communicate with our citizens and provide systems. I also wanted to just make a comment that we provided computers to the Coding Our Way Home program for those individuals participating. So we'll move on. Thank you.
Does anybody else from your team?
Yes, we want to show you some of the work we're doing. Yeah. Some of it you heard and some of it you have not.
Mitsuko Herrera in the Office of Broadband Programs. I just, in the interest of time, I'm going to zoom quickly. This is part of a one-page handout we can send to you that was circulated by the National Digital Inclusion Alliance. But it's just really, I think, highlighting the point of the intersection between digital equity work and economic development. Here what you see is that firms, jobs with, one is 92% of the jobs being advertised out there require some kind of digital skills. In the bottom corner, jobs that have digital skills, they pay better. And then you can see that the percentage of jobs that are advertised are looking for workers with digital skills. And as Gail mentioned, Director Roper mentioned, the Code and Go Home, we provided computers to some of those folks who were coming out. We also have the Montgomery Connects Digital Equity Coalition, and one of the things that came out of there's about 40 nonprofits that participate in that, and our next session is going to be focused on WorkSource Montgomery and highlighting a lot of the resources that are available to them through there. The other ones would be in the libraries. There's a lot of things that the county is providing that the community is not aware of, and so since we've sort of had this touch point with them, we want to leverage that. If we could go to the video with the 3 people. This is there quick. But this just kind of makes the point. This was an event we held with Gilchrist Immigrant Resource Center.
I want to use it for my job. I'm doing an electrician. I'm an electrician. I do solar panel, but I want to use it like a program, make a list what I need, try to make a, I'm sorry, excuse me, another word.
Trying to get comfortable using a computer. You know, he knows how to use the iPhone, but I think a computer is going to really help him be able to, I guess, organize himself, be more confident in how technology works.
The Montgomery County, yeah, it really help a lot of people and make it easy for a lot of people, like help them to educate themselves, and I really like this country, like they're so helpful, like they want you to move on, they want you to like keep going and learn new things. I like that, I really like that. It's not like
you get everyone the opportunities.
Yes,
I love the visuals, and I always have one when I come before you guys. We did last time, and I said, don't play that one again, we'll get a new one.
All right, and we just have one quick one. There we go.
I mean, we're just moving to a digital time. I'm one of the only people in my classes that still take hand notes. Everybody's on a computer. Everyone's work is on a computer now. Everyone's school is on a computer now, and it's mandatory now. You have to have one.
And what are you studying to learn?
Cybersecurity. So I definitely need one. So this is really helpful. I've been trying to scrounge money together to get one, and then this came out just at the right time. So I can't thank you guys enough. It's really helpful. Really helpful. Thank you so much.
As Gail would say, a picture or video may be worth 10,000 words. The last thing I just wanted to quickly mention is that and it was mentioned in the packet, so we have a grant, we have a supplemental package coming to you because we have a series of grants that we received and we need to get your approval so that we can start spending those. There is a $1 million federal earmark through Representative David Trone, which we are receiving through a Department of Labor grant, and that will be to provide 5G and broadband training. They're targeted to be boot camp, so it's 60 hours spread over 5 weeks. There's going to be assistance from WorkSource Montgomery in terms of recruiting, with a specific emphasis on finding underemployed Black and Latino youth, women, and veterans who are underemployed in the telecom workforce. They will be assisting people to get in the pipeline prepared for school. Montgomery College is going to be providing the training, including for those who need driver's licenses, which is one of the significant factors that holds back people from getting a lot of these trade and tech jobs. And then WorkSource Montgomery is going to be working with employers to have jobs at the end of it. And we actually have next Thursday an employer convening that's being hosted by WorkSource Montgomery, John Hattery, who is here, in which we are having the employers meet with the curriculum people to make sure that the skills that they are learning are aligned with the skills that the employers need from that workforce. And overall, the reaction's been very positive. It's somewhat prescient because we have all of this investment in broadband that's coming through the federal grants, so sort of ramping up. And this program is designed to be a pilot so that it can be continued by Montgomery College, but also by other community colleges in Maryland and throughout the state. And we are also working with the Maryland Department of Labor to see if there are any additional grants that we can do to fund future cohorts.
Thanks, Mitzi. So I'd like to just take a minute to go over several economic development and partnership opportunities that we're working on utilizing our infrastructure. So this FiberNet infrastructure was an institutional network. It was connecting our facilities, our buildings. So we have taken that infrastructure and begun to find ways to use it in the community by actually providing Wi-Fi access for underserved communities. We've got several buildings that we've already connected. So we're going to talk just a little bit about how we're using that infrastructure today.
Joe Webster, Chief Broadband Officer in TEBS. Thank you, Director Roper. A couple of examples of economic development where we're leveraging our fiber optic network. One is MocoNet, our service we provide to low-income residents in their homes that helps with digital equity and training. We've also had a number of conversations, lengthy conversations about the University of Maryland Institute for Health Computing. One conversation and one opportunity is with the Maryland Research and Education Network, or MD-REN, which is a statewide network connecting most of the universities and institutions of higher education in the state of Maryland. And they are interested in using FiberNet to connect to the Institute of, for Health Computing in North Bethesda, to connect back into the MD-REN network and then provide connectivity, data connectivity to the other universities and also possibly data centers. We've also had a discussion with the UMD Advanced Computing team, their technical team, same conversation. Can we use FiberNet to leverage connectivity for them? They're looking for temporary office space in the North Bethesda, White Flint area for probably 3 to 5 years while they build a permanent facility. They don't anticipate having their their computing infrastructure with the people. So they're going to locate that in a data center somewhere in Montgomery County or Ashburn, Virginia, and FiberNet can help enable that connectivity for them potentially. We've had conversations with a company called DataBridge Sites, which operates a data center in Silver Spring, and we're looking for opportunities to work with DataBridge Sites to provide connectivity to Montgomery County businesses or organizations located in the county back to DataBridge Sites so they can leverage that data center capability. A little less directly economic development related, but we've had conversations with both the City of Rockville and the City of Gaithersburg about connecting FiberNet to their city infrastructure and providing them with connectivity to Ashburn, Virginia, to an Equinix data center we're co-located with there, as well as providing them with internet access at a much lower cost than what they're currently paying for that internet access.
And then the last thing I'd like to mention is that we're beginning to start a fellowship that we're calling Smart Montgomery, and that will be to build out IoT, Internet of Things, to begin to use AI technology. You hear a lot about ChatGPT. We've got a proof of concept project going on now where we're putting that on our 311 call center to begin to use the AI technology to better respond to residents as they call in. But we're looking across the board from a planning, from a productivity perspective. How can we use 5G, sensors, AI to begin to, we saw a lot of that, didn't we, to move our organization together, even as we talk about pedestrian traffic and sensors being used in parks, those kinds of things. This fellowship we're beginning to structure. We plan to partner with several of the universities in the area and begin to have both internal, being process improvement for Montgomery County, but also external projects that will help in the areas of DOT planning, economic development in those areas. Anything else?
Is that
questions?
No.
Yes. Yes.
I would say, to me, this is probably the most exciting conversation that I had the whole day, and I have had several meetings today. I think, and I had my conversations, I had a meeting with Dr. Torregas the other day about this meeting, and the expectations that we want to have as a committee. And the opportunities are so huge. There's a lot of things that you are all doing in terms of technology and closing the digital divide and really making sure people understand that artificial intelligence is here and it's going to grow big time. It's a huge industry, and how we can make people aware and how we can create new partners, not just within the government with different agencies, but also with the private sector and the educational sector, or institutions of education. So we were discussing this, and we came up with the idea of having this committee lead this work by having committee sessions outside the council building. Let's say we can have a session in Germantown, but also having a purpose behind it, not just educating people about the different programs, but maybe we can even launch some type of innovator, competition, anything that really gets people's attention to come in, understand the resources that we have, and take part of this. We need to create a space for innovators in Montgomery County, as is happening in California and in other places around the world. We don't do it here. When I was in Taiwan, to me that was so clear, how competition and the fact that sometimes when you offer different grants for entrepreneurs who are go-getters and who use technology, how they can use their imagination to actually create things that you cannot even think of right now. So we really need to start pushing the envelope, and I think this committee needs to be the one leading that force. So we're gonna have to follow up after the budget and see how we can create a calendar with a series of goals, and then run them by the committee, get your input, and see how we can move this forward and create partnerships. But the whole point will be having these conversations outside this building, and having young people involved, having immigrants involved, having people that you don't usually see the coming to a government building can bring opportunities in terms of funding, capital. That's what we need to give people too. So I'm excited in that front and how we can truly create smart cities in Montgomery County, not as intense as we saw in Taiwan. I mean, they really know everything about you over there.
50.
Yeah. So I have my limitations here. But it's an exciting conversation that we all need to take part of. And the fact that you're already, getting all those federal grants and money is there. We need to go get it. And but we also need to inspire people to see this as a career. I mean, we want to be the #1 place in the nation on life sciences. I mean, it goes side by side with that goal too. So I just wanted to mention that, and then perhaps we can guide us one more time on the issue of the operating budget. I mean, do you expect any approvals today at all, or
recommendations to the GEO committee?
To the GEO committee
for the items that you've just heard about.
Yes.
In the also Rotary programs, and also a more difficult discussion for the comprehensive county website, because that is an addition. It's an increase in the budget, so it would have to go on the reconciliation list. So the question of a website and its relationship to applications that might be on mobile phones, the MC311, we've got a whole panoply of ways that we reach our residents. So it would be very useful to hear just a little bit about this website and give your recommendation vis-a-vis high priority off the list.
I do believe having a website that really fits our needs is a high priority. If you see it in the sense of economic development and making sure that we're truly connecting with every generation. Okay, you cannot make the assumption that whatever you use to communicate with a 60-year-old person is the same thing as a 16-year-old. Two different demographics in terms of technology and how they communicate. But I see that Councilmember Balcon has a question.
Yeah, so I had one question, but when you mentioned the website, I have two. So the process, so the GEO committee will look at the entire budget.
Yes.
And make a recommendation to the full council for
Correct.
the entire budget. So our recommendation is to the GEO committee.
As I understand it today. Yeah.
Okay. That was the one. And then the other thing, so can you, and this may be a naive question that I should have asked long ago, the difference between operating in capital for technology. So can you just describe that difference?
Yeah, and I'll ask my friend from Office of Management Budget to weigh in as well. But capital budget is usually for long-term projects. So it's a convenient fit for technology projects that take a long time to implement. We used to have a technology modernization project in CIP that went through maybe $120 million over 10, 15 years. That's how the technology items ended up being in the CIP, because of the 5 or 6 year window that you can actually begin to track it. Today, the GEO committee looks at 2 projects in the CIP. One is FiberNet, and the other one is digital equity, I think. Yeah. Digital equity is kind of a leftover because it's not really a capital improvement program. But those are, say again? Ultra Montgomery. Right.
What are we renaming that to? Digital
Montgomery Connects. So those 2 projects are the ones that are in the capital improvement program. The FiberNet is actually a construction project. We receive monies from cable companies to actually dig holes in the ground and do things which are capital in nature. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I just wondered, the new initiative, the website initiative, how that fit and why here and not there.
It would be in the operating budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because of the size, the dollar amount, or because of the length of
time it takes to,
it's
a 12 to 18 month project.
Okay, and then how does that fit with the overall county's website?
It is the centralized.
So this
county
is the
website.
centralized.
Yes. We get 43 million unique views on that website per year. So
Okay.
it would be working with all of the departments in terms of uplifting and modernizing that website. The biggest challenge there is, of course, the search engine and the governance around how it's maintained.
Thank you. And then how often does the website go through a regeneration?
Well, of course, depending upon the organization, but we'd hope to have some sort of continuous improvement strategy around the website so it doesn't go stagnant. I believe it hasn't been updated in several years, and it will go to the cloud. So when we modernize, it will go to the cloud, and we'll have a better opportunity to maintain the information on the website on a routine basis.
Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming there's money in the overall budget for just the ongoing maintenance of the website.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We do have. I'm sorry. But we do have the RFP is out. So we're waiting. We should have responses back and the evaluation on those RFPs shortly.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember, Council President Glass.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate the conversation and appreciate Dr. Torregas opening up the conversation by stating the complexities and challenges of going through the first budget with a department that serves many different functions and could and does theoretically report to multiple committees. And we recognize this as this committee was formed, but as we go through this budget process, hopefully we will further refine it for future years. And I see everyone nodding, and
we're up for it.
We're all in agreement here. So I just want to pick up real quickly on the website. And forgive me if I didn't hear Council Member Balcom ask, but what is the total anticipated budget for the website?
So here's part of the process. We have to make sure that we estimate costs so that we can make budget ask. So we do the best job that we can on estimating those costs. It's a $1.5 million line item. It could come in less than that. We try to be conservative, but it could come in less than that. So right now, what we know is 1.5 million.
Okay, and the reason I ask is I saw the 1.5, but just wanted to confirm that is the projected cost of the project.
Yes, it is.
Not an exploratory phase one to get the scope of work and then drag it out into subsequent years. Okay, and how many unique hits did you say the county gets?
43 million.
43?
43 million.
43.
Unique.
What you didn't say was that half of that is for Councilmember Balcom's website, right? Because or all three of them, they want to check out who the new council members are. So, okay, it makes sense. I understand it, and I'd support it.
Thank you. I guess the reason I asked the question about, how did this fit in, I thought that was a low number. I don't know. But I guess the primary reason is I don't know why we're classifying that as an external facing. I would think that's an internal facing. And I know this will be squishy for a few years, but
it was my decision as staff.
Yeah.
I just said, this is one of the most significant technology that our residents see. So in that way, it's not the county screaming, it's the county passively saying, here's what I have, come and get it.
Sure.
Internal versus external, I think you look at it.
Yeah, and I think that's right, and that's in that sense, I would think that there would, if that was the case, I would think that there's a lot more external facing, maybe not. I was thinking from an economic development lens, because some of the other things are specifically workforce development, economic development, supporting businesses. So I am very happy to voice an opinion on anything. That's great. So that was the question. So and yes, I feel like it's a critical project.
Thank you.
We all in agreement, so we can, or you have something else?
I just had a quick question about some of the staff recommendations about consider requesting the executive to provide a separate budget breakdown in the cable plan for FY25 for outward-facing items related to economic development. I saw that there was additional information provided. Oh, am I
You're in the
too
next
far
one,
ahead?
the cable plan.
Oh.
You're in the cable plan?
Yes, I am. I'm sorry.
I think part of the confusion is that within the Office of Broadband Programs, the digital equity work is actually funded by the cable fund, even though it was within the Department of Technology. So you have two packets, and the information is split between the two.
Yeah.
So it might be helpful maybe if it just got considered in one packet.
And there are some pieces of digital equity that are moving back and forth between TEBS and the cable plan. So that may also be adding to the confusion here.
So when you go to the GL committee, you can just have one package instead of two. Make it easy. But do you have a presentation on the cable plan before we move with that question?
No, we can.
We can take it? Okay.
Sure.
Do you want to reiterate the question?
Oh, okay. Yes, I was just asking if we have more information about the cable plan, just the breakdown of what's included. But before we get there, I did have a question because you did mention the benefits of the tech department and how they're impacting or how you're working with our students and how we can leverage this department to ensure that our students have access to these opportunities. And just thinking about our last discussion with workforce development and MCPS. So I hope that next year we'll see some recommendations about partnerships and collaborations to really spur those opportunities. I know that my community media has a summer program with students to deepen their understanding of communications and to get the next generation of producers and people who are going to be in media. And so we have cybersecurity and all these different components that are coming to the county, and I see that staff has even recommended things about AI workshops for county departments, but it would be good to see what sort of investments and partnerships you're creating with MCPS, Montgomery College, and those entities.
I think there is a lot being done, and we just tried to be succinct today. I mean, we could talk, but we'll make sure we focus in on those areas.
Yeah,
and when we meet again, we'll have more to share.
Good. Thank you.
And if I can, TEBS already does quite a lot in the community. I mean, we know that. You saw the videos. It's TEBS work right out in the community. The challenge is that you as a committee have limited ways to interact with TEBS. You see them in the budget, and that's it. And the budget's already prepared. You have had very little input into the budget. So the more we can continue this discussion in the fall, in the winter, and try to insert, the Economic Development Committee could be an excellent kind of meeting point where TEBS is sitting together with Workforce Montgomery, with someone else, in a shared panel, as it were, to address a community topic. It's not easy to do. Certainly, it's not easy to do in a budget environment. So that might be something to pick up in the fall or winter. Thank you very much for that.
Mrs. Herrera, would you tell us how many computers have been
add?
given to date? The number of computers to date?
The number of computers to date, I believe, is 49,937.
Thank you. I mean, the numbers of the computers that are given out are in the packet, but what happens after those computers are given out? Are we tracking are we creating any metrics around the work that you all are doing?
So, yes. So the first thing is that the funding that was received was to distribute computers.
Yep.
What we are doing is we are leveraging the Gov delivery system so that we can be sending out emails to people, and we are trying to leverage to see, we think we can use that for text, and we're looking to see how we can leverage WhatsApp as well to reach people. And what we are planning to do is we've roughly segmented people into, there were people who they have young people in the household, they are older, they are low income, and there are the different areas of the county, the 5 different regional services centers. We've geocoded them that way. And then we did ask a question about people, whether they had wanted training. And so what we are trying to do is, since we don't have any additional money to be providing training, what we're trying to do as an interim measure is to be making people aware of the training that is out there. The libraries provide a significant amount of training. We did require for everybody receiving those computers to get a library card so that they would have access to that. And that's a big focus for us, is to help people understand and to put on. We've discussed with the library's outreach program so that we can be putting on workshops for people so that they can better understand that. We are, those other grants that we alluded to that are in there, we are leveraging those to help people learn to also use the My Active Montgomery, which is how you get access to all the recreation department classes as well. And then we are working with the state of Maryland. We hosted yesterday with the University of Maryland Extension, which has the $4 million training grant from the state of Maryland for digital equity. We brought together about 22 organizations so that they could give input to the state on what their biggest curriculum needs were, their biggest training needs, and how the trainers could really help them. And our goal is to, they also have a statewide it's called Marylanders Online Call Center, which launched last month, and it is providing one-on-one tech support for people. So we want to make sure that people are aware of that if they have questions and how they can do it. And we will be using the funding that's within the base budget. We fund the Senior Planet program, which is where we are providing training for people 50 and older. And a big focus of our, we have 2 things. You approved a supplemental within the HHS ARPA money to provide us with $150 million that we are using to actually go out and do events at 50 senior buildings. And we have another FCC grant to do it at another 60 affordable housing developments, so that we can be at least having one touch point at that location and sort of drive them to the other trainings that we're offering. Lastly, I would note that in this packet, you'll see that both part of the digital equity money funds there was a consolidation of youth media grants and community grants, and that budget now sits within the digital equity program inside the cable fund. Those are broken out, so there's $176,000 that's going to the County Brigade has a new name, the Action Youth?
It's called Action Youth Media.
Action Youth Media. And then we also do a grant funding process that the Connect Montgomery Alliance, they take applications, and those are designed for youth to produce and create different digital media projects. And then, of course, there is funding within the cable fund for MCM, I think about $2 million, which is part of what they use for that funding for the youth backpack, summer camp, and other programs that we've done. And then there's also Montgomery College, a big chunk of what they use their television programming for is that they provide workforce development, because they are training students to work in television, and there's a lot of those students who have gone on to get paid jobs, like the Nationals, the people bringing you the television. There's lots of other folks who have gone on to the news organizations.
Perfect. I'm gonna get us moving.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you have
Just-
another
yeah.
question? Go
You
ahead.
mentioned $150 million for, was that correct?
Oh, sorry. Just dreaming big.
I was like, there goes half of our tax increase.
Sorry, 150,000. So sorry. It's Friday. What time is it?
We have 2 more minutes.
Thank you.
You are very welcome. You do amazing work, and we're gonna have to sit down and talk about that towards so we can support your work and really push innovation in Montgomery County in ways that hasn't been done here. So basically, what I heard from the committee is that we're 100% on board with the website. And we are on board on the many different programs that were described, Computer for You, affordable connectivity, senior plan in Montgomery, and so on. But we don't have to list them as terms of priority and high priority, right? Not on this case.
The only thing you have to list is the website.
The website, I would say that's a high priority, and would that be something that the committee agrees?
Will you be sharing like a preliminary, I guess, plan for what these upgrades entail for this request?
We can.
Okay.
I'm going to say that the website's a priority for me.
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
2 priorities. What about you, Miss?
It's a priority. Just want more information.
Okay, so 3 to 1. It's okay. I can live with that. Priority it is. Let's get more info so we can convince them. All right.
So your recommendation to GO is that it be a priority?
Yes. It will be a priority. Yes.
3 to 1.
3 to 1. It's fine.
No, I said it's a priority. I just want additional.
We all agree it's a priority.
Versus a higher.
Let's not forget what the word priority means.
Oh, well, I think it's a high priority, and I would like additional information.
2 to 2.
We need to do site today. Okay. Oh. Well, you know, let's do it. You say to that.
Sorry. Please state to the GL committee that, we believe it's a very important priority. How about that? And that the committee is requesting more information that you should give to the GL committee when they see this item.
Sure.
At least, yes.
It's going to be April 26th.
April, that's next week, right? Yeah. Oh my God. All right, cool. Is there anything else?
No.
Thank you so much. 4:31, I only missed 1 minute. Only went over for 1 minute. Thank you and have a beautiful weekend.
Thank you.
We're done. Thank you.
1 minute over. That's it.
Yeah.